Well, happy Sunday to everybody. I hope you had a great weekend. We still got one day left of it, and I hope that goes really well too. I hope it's warm and sunny and lovely wherever you are. So, I talked about this filing day before yesterday, but on that day, I was preparing not just that episode, but also one I was going to do with Omar that I did later that night. So, I kind of feel like I rushed through some of it. And then I saw some comments and I wanted to address it because I feel like there's maybe a little misinformation about what happened with this case, but also I just felt like I hadn't fully prepared well enough to present it to you like I like to do that. Good morning, Christina, or afternoon, morning, afternoon, whatever it is where you are, everybody. So I just wanted to circle back and cover it just a little bit more thoroughly, some of the stuff that I missed. There was also something still bothering me about it. Because as you know, I like to deep dive into the cases, and I just read the Miller case. I didn't jump into Lugo, which they really emphasized that one a lot as the reason for the decision they made in this. So I wanted to go back and look at that one as well. And good morning, Ricardo. He says, Miss Cassidy and Lovelies, thank you so much. But oh yeah, this is early morning for you, isn't it, Christina? Well, I mean, not super early, but early for a Sunday. But anyway, so that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to come back and just just hit a few things that I felt like got missed a little bit. And let's see. So what I did is I created a timeline because this case was about timing. And if you look this paragraph here, and it actually it repeats this over and over again. And I'm going to show that to you. But when it talks about how and why this case failed, and when I say this case, I'm talking about Miller versus LaManna. This is something that was just decided in the Second Circuit, and I've shown you guys a million times about binding authority, that the higher court's decisions, the lower courts, like the one that Judge Lyman is in, he is bound by those decisions in the higher court, but only if they relate to the case that he's deciding. I say, in my opinion, it does not, because this case, this Miller versus LaManna that was just decided, and it was decided, and it's almost identical to the issues in Lugo. But as it says, 7 days after the district court filed its decision in this case, we decided Lugo. So when this Miller case was still in district court, there was a decision made, and then a week later, this decision in the higher court, Lugo, came out. So what he's saying is, you weren't bound by it because the decision hadn't been made yet. But now that it's under appeal, we're going to apply this binding authority. But what was the issue in Miller? And is it the same? Which held that a district court commits procedural error. Procedural error is, hey, judge, you messed up. You didn't follow the rules, you didn't follow the procedures. When it resolves the question of standing, which was raised at the summary judgment stage. So, whatever else you may have heard out there, this is the issue with this case. It was a motion, it was a Rule 12 motion to dismiss on the pleadings. But they didn't file that. And it was raised at summary judgment stage. So you've seen, I try to show you the rules of things when I can to help you understand why decisions get made, because that's what helps me understand. So this was from the live, I forgot. It's not in this. I had to add it later. I just took this information from the live that I did. So dispositive motions are motions that can dismiss the case before it gets to trial. There are others besides these, but these are the three main ones. And some of the others you have to ask court's permission or court's leave to even file them. But these are the basics. So the 12b6 is a motion to dismiss, and the timing with that is that when someone files a complaint, you can either file the answer or within 21 days of that complaint, you can file a motion to dismiss. Now, all a motion to dismiss covers, especially at that point, because there's no discovery at that point, is the four corners of that complaint. Do they meet the standard? Do you have a case, basically? That's what this is for. Now, with the timing of that, some of the issues that you can bring in your motion to dismiss, they're time barred. So they expire. That means if you don't address them in this early time period, you waive your right to address them later. So, for example, one of those that expires is jurisdiction. So if you don't feel like this is the correct jurisdiction for your case, you have to say it in the very beginning. If you don't, you waive it. You cannot bring it up later, even if it's not the proper jurisdiction. You waive your right. So those expire. There are some like failure to state a claim. Those stay good throughout the entire case. You can bring those in judgment for the pleadings, which is basically the main reason to do that. You can mention it in your summary judgment, but it can't be your only reason once you get to that stage. So the point I'm making, there are other ways, like I said, you can use some of these, like you don't usually call it a motion to dismiss, but it kind of is. It's a 12H. It's messy. We're not going to talk about that. It has nothing to do with this case, but so a basic motion to dismiss, that's the time period of that objection or that dispositive motion. Then we have the one that we are one of the ones that are currently in the Wayfarer trial right now. That is a 12C, and that is motion for judgment on the pleadings. So what are the pleadings? So the motion to dismiss goes just on the original complaint. The judgment on the pleadings is a little beyond that. It's the pleadings. Well, what's that? That's the complaint. That's the answer to the complaint, and that's the response back. So it's a little bit more, but it's based on the same thing, whether or not there is a legitimate case to even survive to a trial. So that is the main document that I'm going to talk about today, because that was filed in this case. And it was filed in September. And that's important. And then ultimately, we have the motion for summary judgment, which is based on Rule 56. We have that in this case as well, but it was filed at a different time. This is filed after discovery. So it's a completely different time period, but you have a limited time that you can file that as well. You can't drag that in and then right before trial say, oh, I'm filing this. So it's 30 days after the close of all discovery. So the expert, all of it. So those are the basic rules for those. And like I said, there's other situations, but we're not going to get into that because they have nothing to do with this case. So again, it was raised at the summary judgment stage. That's the most important sentence to remember, because that is the whole point of this case that Gottlieb is trying to say applies to Wayfarer. But I think he's wrong, as usual. It's not the first time he's come up with the wrong case to try to prove a point. We're going to go way back in time to when we were babies in this case, February the 3rd, and this is the original case management plan and scheduling order. I did an episode way, way back then, but I think most of you probably weren't around yet. But what this does, this is in every case, and it's according to each judge's individual practices, how he likes to set things up. He has a very, very busy schedule. So from the beginning, he does his best, he or she, to line up the entire lawsuit, how it's going to play out. So, way back in February of last year, he determined when things like depositions were going to be finished, when expert discovery was going to be finished, when all discovery was going to be finished, and many other things. But from the very beginning, from when there was any sort of schedule at all, this is the very first one. And from then, for all discovery, October 15th was the deadline. Okay, so keeping that in mind, we're going to build on this timeline. So, fact discovery was due by August the 14th, and then expert discovery and expert depositions, all of that was due October 15th. Why is that important? Well, I will show you. The motion for judgment on the pleadings that is at issue in this case was filed on September the 26th. You can see it right there. It's document 810. It was filed on September 26th, 2025, and it is the Wayfarer party's motion for judgment on the pleadings. So we're going to put that right in there. Remember, if we go back to, let me put this back up. So this happens after the pleadings are closed, but early enough not to delay trial. And the motion for summary judgment, what is that stage? It is after discovery and then up to 30 days after the close of discovery. So looking back at this timeline, the motion for summary judgment does not begin until October 15th, and it lasts how many days? Let's look at it again. 30 days after the close of all discovery. So from October 15th to November 14th would be the summary judgment stage. That is very important because the judge may be considering the judgment of pleadings now, but that has nothing to do with when Wayfarer filed it. These are his decisions of why he is just now doing all of this together. But they filed well within the correct time period. And if you remember, we got to listen in to the hearing where this was discussed. Because remember, there was a big old hoopla when they filed these documents. And so the judge actually held a hearing and they got to discuss these two documents, the pleadings and more specifically, the summary judgment. So he said that he was not going to say that this was late because he can't say it's late. It's not late. It is not filed in the summary judgment time. It's filed weeks before the end of all discovery. Okay, so we are going to keep building on that. Now, it's about the pleadings, right? So let me pop this up again. Remember, a 12C, which is a motion for judgment on the pleadings, is exactly what it says, the pleadings. It attacks the pleadings. Now, remember, the pleadings are the complaint, the answer, and then the person who filed the complaint gets a chance to reply to the opposition. So it's a back and forth. It's not just one document. And you don't file the MJOP until all of the P's are there. So what was happening in this case around this time? July 30th, the court gave Blake permission to amend her complaint in what I call the Blue Jean Baby amendment, because she had her most spectacular piece of evidence in this one. Blue Jean Baby, New York lady. And if you remember, this was literally one of her pieces of evidence for why Jed Wallace should have known that she was a New York resident. So this was in her fight for New York law, which is really funny because now she's fighting to claim California law. So whatever suits her in the moment. But this entire amended complaint was all because Jed Wallace had been released from the case, and she was trying to get him back. So that was the whole purpose of this second amended complaint. But the important thing is that it was filed on July 30th. Now look at the caption, the adversarial caption, that's the Blake Lively versus, and there you see Jed Wallace's name. He was still part of this big old lawsuit. This pleading is part of this lawsuit, and it was filed on July 30th. All right. So if you are going to file a motion for judgment on the pleadings are not finished. So he waited. They didn't file it yet. Okay. And so I popped that in here, and I gave her orange. She tends to use orange colors, and I don't really like the color orange, so I feel like it suits. So I popped that in there. Oops, I put an extra one in there, wasn't ready yet. So ignore that second one. But she popped that in on July 30th. Okay, so the pleadings are still happening. Then what happens? Oh, no, wait, I did. Sorry, I ignored my notes here. So when she filed the complaint, that triggers, what does it trigger? You can respond to that. You have to respond to that or you forfeit. So everybody responded, not just Jed Wallace, because this was aimed to keep him in there. But if you remember that adversarial, here, look, it's Wayfarer, it's Justin, it's Jamie, it's Steve, it's the movie, it's Melissa Nathan, Jennifer Abel, Jed Wallace, and Jed Wallace's company. So everybody had to respond to that. And so we see that happened on August 13th. And those were docket 632 to 639, and Jed Wallace's was docket 642. And he filed, the rest of them filed answers, but Jed Wallace filed another motion to dismiss because he wanted out of there. And we know he was eventually granted that. But at that point, this is Wayfarer, this is everybody. And this is still a part of the pleadings. This is their reply to that. This is still ongoing, actively in pleading stage. Okay, so what comes next? There's an order also in July. So we're stepping back to this. July the 15th, this was a change in discovery. So this moved fact discovery. Now, this was the first one. They were still trying to keep as much of everything as they could intact at that time. So they didn't change expert discovery. At this point, they changed just the fact discovery, and they bumped that from August to September 30th. Okay, so looking at this, the pleading, the MJOP is still well within the discovery time period where it belongs. Remember, motion for summary judgment doesn't start till after the pleadings are, the discovery is all over. Okay, so that's where we are now. Then what happened? Then we have, this was his motion to dismiss, filed on August 27th, and I had that snuck in the timeline already. This was that beautiful, beautiful document that he started off with lyrics of Taylor Swift. Do you guys remember? It was hilarious. And he addressed the Blue Jean Baby because he found it as ridiculous as we all did. But I just wanted to put that up there because just to say I miss Charles Babcock and his delightful pleadings. Okay, so then on August the 27th, docket 713 is Blake's opposition to his motion to dismiss. So pleadings are still happening during this time period. Again, just emphasizing, because that Miller case was all about the timing. We are this is very close to the pleadings. This is well within discovery. So let's see. What do we have next? Next, we have Blake's response to. Oh no, this is. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. This is the one where he uses Taylor Swift's delightful lyrics and just like really has fun with it. Sorry about that, guys. I That goes in September 30th. Yeah, it was the motion to dismiss that was August 13th. Oh, I hate when I make mistakes like this. So let's catch this up. So the second amended complaint was filed July 30th. The responses were filed August 13th for all of the Wayfarer parties, including Judd Wallace. They all filed them separately, August 13th. Then Blake filed an opposition to Judd Wallace's motion to dismiss on August 27th. Then on September 3rd, Judd Wallace replied. So that is finally the end of the pleadings, September 3rd. For a motion for judgment on the pleadings, for it to be filed just 23 days later is not an unreasonable situation. That is the perfect timing, actually, for this sort of thing, because the attorneys, when they're preparing it, they need to consider all of the pleadings, what were all of the arguments, and then they need time to write a document this big. They don't need to be rushing through that. They need to be considering everything carefully. They don't need to be making mistakes. This is a very reasonable time for this to have happened. These often take 30 to even 120 days to write because you want to get it all correct. And there are quite a few pleadings in this case because every single defendant had to file their own answer or motion to dismiss. So there is a lot to consider when you're preparing a document like an MJOP. So there is nothing wrong with this timing. This is exactly why Judge Lyman said there was nothing wrong with this timing and why he didn't just deny them the chance to do it, because he couldn't, because it was according to all of the rules. Most importantly, it was still well within the discovery time period. It was not in the motion for summary judgment stage. Okay, now on September 29th, we're not done messing with the timeline. Discovery gets extended yet again. This time, it's the expert discovery. So we'd previously moved the fact discovery, but now the expert and the all discovery, this is all the depositions, and the expert reports, all of that good stuff. It's bumped all the way to November 14th, moving summary judgment stage even further away. So now remember, summary judgment stage doesn't start until the end of discovery. So that was not the stage until November the 14th. So all of this yelling and whining and stomping and tantrum throwing is nothing but that. This is well within the rules. See how far that is? That's almost 2 months. Almost 2 months away from the deadline, or for the end of discovery, which would begin motion for summary judgment stage. So that's why I wanted to do this, because I can say it out, but when you've got this visual aid, when you can see so clearly that what he is saying is not correct, it really, really helps you get a mental picture of that. There was nothing wrong. It was very comfortably nestled in to the discovery stage. So this is why I say this is nothing but shenanigans, as usual. Okay, then what happened next? Because we're still not done messing with stuff. So here we have September 30th. This is just 4 days after the judgment on the pleadings was filed. That was filed on the 26th, and then just she comes up 4 days later with this opposition, and right away, that is what they say. "Oh, this is, where is it? It is untimely." In the second sentence, it's un oh, no, first sentence, it's untimely. So and they right away, they want it not to be seen as a judgment on the pleadings. They want it to be used as a summary judgment. So this is what they have wanted all along. And that's why when this other case was decided, he comes running to the court breathlessly with it, thinking that he's won some big victory here. But just because that's what they've said it is, doesn't mean that's what it is, because we have this timeline. We know it is not untimely. It is right on time. And this is where I started to get absolutely furious. I was already still mad at this time because of what had just happened with those content creator that Costco bulk subpoena that was still going out, and it was one of the reasons that discovery got extended, if you remember, because she was still rinsing and repeating that same bulk subpoena and sending it to more and more people, and that was the reason for the extension on discovery. So we were already hopping mad about that. Then she has the nerve to ask for an extension to respond to this filing that is well within the time period that every law firm out there has to be prepared for because it is within the rules to file these things. But she wanted special treatment, even after fighting every single extension of time that the Wayfarer parties ever asked for from the very beginning, when Brian Friedman's house and office was literally on fire. But she comes and for no good reason asks that instead of her response, and I think it was originally due like on the 4th or the 10th or something, on the 10th, to be extended 10 extra days to the 27th. So she's like, either deny this or give me 17 extra days to respond to something that I should be prepared to respond to because it's a typical document in a case. And here was I foolishly thinking he's never going to give her 17 whole days when she wouldn't even give wayfarers 1 to 3 days when they asked for it, even when they had fires and technical difficulties. Okay, so that comes on September the 30th that she requests this extension. Okay, which is even her reply is still nestled in there in the discovery, not the summary judgment stage yet. And here comes the order that none of us could believe. He not only gave her the 17 days, he gave her more than that. She had asked for it to be denied or the extension. So he says Lively's request for the court to deny is untimely. The Wayfarer party's motion for judgment on the pleadings is denied. He had to deny it because it was within the right time frame. The court will consider, and this is where he makes this ridiculous, in my opinion, decision. The court will consider the motion for judgment on the pleadings concurrently with motions for summary judgment. Those had not been filed yet. But he made the decision back then that the motions for summary judgment were due on November. I've got something on my screen about the number of slides, so I can't see the date. I think it's is it November 19th? I think that was the date. So on the day that the summary judgments are due, that's when he makes her her deadline. He gives her that long of an extension, which just absolutely made me furious. So something that was due on, let's see, what day? I don't remember, but she asked for 17 days, and he ends up giving her until November, which was ridiculous, to respond to something like that, that everybody else has the same amount of time to respond to. But she got this ridiculous privilege. So then what happens? Sorry. On October the 14th, there's yet another change to the discovery. So this one is all about experts. So this one gets bumped all the way into December. So this is the deadline to complete the deposition of experts. And I think there were some situations with some of them or with one of them that still, because of illness, still couldn't make it with this. So then it ends up that one gets permission to even go a little bit later. But this gets bumped along with the post-discovery status conference. So now, here's what we have with the case. This is the final timeline. So we can see the big X's are time periods where discovery got moved, and that was all the way to November 14th, ultimately. And then, oh, did I forget? I forgot to add the December 5th, the December 5th. Sorry, guys, I'm missing one here. I was doing this in the middle of the night. So ultimately, did I make it? Ah, now I hate myself. So there's supposed to be a December 5th. That was the end of the expert discovery. So there should be one more in there. That means the motion for summary judgment stage did not begin until December the 5th. This judgment on the pleadings, September 26th, months before. And it's perfectly within the time frame. It is not within the motion for summary judgment stage. The only reason that it was not considered in a timely manner is because the judge decided that he was going to wait and go over it together with the summary judgment. But him reviewing it in the summary judgment stage does not mean that it was filed in the summary judgment stage. You can't rewrite history. You can't say, well, he's deciding it now together with the summary judgment, so it's in the summary judgment stage. No, you cannot change the fact that it was filed in the correct time. It was filed within a couple of weeks of the final pleading, well within the discovery stage, long before the motion for summary judgment stage. So that's the whole reason for this timeline, so that you can visually see that Gottlieb's claims are absolutely false. Absolutely false. And if the MJOP had been considered on its own, as it should have been much earlier, it would be done. It would be long done, and none of this would be happening. But it was just a weird way that weird decisions were made, and here's where we are. Now, I want to go back to this. Was another thing that was bugging me because I hadn't had a chance to read this case Lugo. Now, if you look at how they talk about Lugo, it gets mentioned throughout this Miller case, which is the new one that Gottlieb has brought, but it keeps referring back to Lugo. It says some more things about Lugo. It says, all the reasons that persuaded us in Lugo to conclude that the district court committed procedural error, that they apply with equal force in this case. So the cases are so similar. It's kind of funny to me that they even took the Miller case, because I mean, there's already binding authority. These cases are about the same thing, basically. So it's kind of funny, like, why did you even bother? You've already got case law about this. But they did. But we're gonna come back to this statement in just a moment. Now, this is Miller again. And this is where I want to stress to you again about what is wrong with the Miller case. So as I showed you at the beginning, it's about that it was filed during the summary judgment stage. But we're going to read this is directly from their order. And this is the binding authority for this case. The district court's failure to consider the summary judgment record was procedural error. So Michael Gottlieb took that line and put it in his filing, like to tell the judge, if you do this, you're making a huge mistake. If the judge doesn't come and read this and just takes his word for it, I'm going to be so mad. But it says we reasoned that although Rule 12D of the federal rules allows courts to convert a motion to dismiss into a motion for summary judgment if the motion to dismiss references matters outside the pleadings, the federal rules offer no support for the sort of reverse 12D conversion that the district court undertook. So this is the procedural error. Everything goes by rules. The rules are that you can take a motion to dismiss and convert it into a Rule 56 motion for summary judgment. That exists in the rules. What does not exist in the rules is to convert backwards, to convert a 56 to a 12D. That is why it is procedural error, because that is what procedural error means. You didn't follow the proper procedure. You didn't follow the rules. Judge Lyman is not committing procedural error by acknowledging this motion for judgment on the pleadings that was timely filed. He's simply not. It's weird that he's doing it together, that he waited so long to do it, but it's not procedural error because it was filed on time, and that is what matters. Okay, what else? Here's where it clearly says after discovery, the summary judgment standard typically applies. That has nothing to do with the Wayfarer case. This decision has nothing to do. It is not binding authority to the Wayfarer case because this did not happen. You saw the timeline. It was not in the summary judgment time period. It was not after discovery. So summary judgment standard requires, because it goes by Rule 56, requires the district court to review the evidence compiled by the parties during discovery to determine whether trial is actually required. So in this case, if you didn't see my previous episode about this, they had filed a motion for summary judgment. They didn't file a motion for judgment on the pleadings. They didn't file any sort of motion to dismiss. They filed a motion for summary judgment. And in that motion, they mentioned that it didn't meet that it didn't meet the 12B6 standard, and so they asked the judge to apply that. This is the procedural error of this case, because not only had they filed a motion for summary judgment, but there'd been 2 years of discovery. Discovery was closed. So it was in that part of the case. And the other side had filed an opposition to the motion for summary judgment. The summary judgment that they themselves filed included mountains of evidence from discovery, like 700 pages worth. It had affidavits. It had all kinds of stuff. And the reply had even more. It had like 1,000 pages of that stuff. So this summary judgment motion was well in play. It was after discovery, it was in the summary judgment time period, and they had already filed documents back and forth fighting each other on those issues. So how ridiculous to ignore all of that and go back and say, we're going to do this like a motion to dismiss. It was a whole hot mess, and the judge should have known better. So that was the issue, and nothing like that happened in Wayfarer. So binding authority is only binding if your case has the same issues. This case does not have any of these issues whatsoever. So that is not binding authority to this case. It's not even something that the judge needs to consider, look at, read, glance at. Nothing. It has nothing. None of these situations occurred in the Wayfarer case. And if you take this case and try to apply it and say that Wayfarer does not have the right to have their MJOP heard, you are committing procedural error because they do have a right. You're saying that 12C does not exist, that Rule 12C does not exist, but it does exist. And they exercise their right under that rule. So there was no error. It was timely filed. And even at that, discovery was still even happening, even though it closed. And I missed that December 5th thing in there. But the last bit of discovery finally hit the docket last month. February the 2nd was the last CD and DVD that was filed in this case. So come on. That is months after the MJOP. It's nothing like this case. Now, going back to, let me see. I want to make sure I don't miss anything with my notes. So now we're going to go back through this Miller case, and I want you to see how many times it repeats this. I've already shown you a few. But it says the administration of justice is best served when the district court applies the standards that are appropriate for the pertinent motion and stage of litigation. Okay, if we follow that rule, the MJOP was filed in the appropriate stage of litigation. And so justice is best served when the district court applies those standards. So from this case that Michael Gottlieb has breathlessly run to the court, it says it right here. Okay, to follow this rule, the MJOP was filed at that motion or at that stage of litigation. It's appropriate. The justice is best served to apply those standards. There we have it right there. Now, in the Lugo case, Troy is the opposing side. It says Troy did not object to the adequacy of plaintiff's pleadings until the summary judgment stage. That's where they went wrong. It was too late then. But that is not what happened here. Here it says it again, that the district court erred in resolving the question of standing, which was raised at the summary judgment stage. So it was at the wrong stage and it was the wrong document. It was not an MJOP. It was an MSJ. Here's another. As in Lugo, the risk of error was compounded because defendants did not object to the adequacy of Miller's pleadings until the summary judgment stage. So I'm just going to keep repeating this because every time I repeat it, it's like in your face, Michael Gottlieb, you are wrong. All the reasons that persuaded us in Lugo to conclude that the district court committed procedural error when it converted the defendant's motion for summary judgment into a motion to dismiss apply with equal force in this case. Lugo is not distinguishable. And now we're coming back to this that I said we would come back to. Why am I coming back to this? Because I realized that's what was bothering me so much. The fact that they kept saying all the reasons as in Lugo, and then to even say Lugo is not distinguishable. They're saying that they're basically the same case. So what did that make me think? Let me find. Sorry. You know, what is this telling us? This is telling us these cases were absolutely similar, and yet Lugo was never brought up when Michael Gottlieb could have brought this up in his defense, he didn't. He missed this case back when he had a chance. He did not put this in his brief. It's the same law. This is the point. He was trying to say the pleadings were untimely. That's what he's been saying, as you saw from the very first document. And yet, he missed this binding authority case that is what should have been in his brief back then. And now it's almost like he's like, "Oh man, I messed up. Oh wait, there's a new case. I can still slip this in from what I missed." So I feel like this is not new law. I mean, yes, it was a new decision, but it doesn't say anything new. There was an existing case that he should have failed to, and now he's trying to patch it in under this Miller case. And that irked me too. It's like all of you attorneys making all of your millions and treating Wayfarer so badly, but your case law is always either way wrong or you miss something that you shouldn't have missed. And he did. And bringing this to the court now, it's kind of funny. He's kind of telling on himself that this case existed and he missed it. And so now he's trying to sneak it in another way with this new case that decides exactly the same thing. And that was just something I wanted to point out, because this is a big fail. This was the reasoning that they were trying to use. They were wrong then, as wrong as they are now. But what I'm saying is this is the reasoning that they were trying to apply back then, and yet they missed a case that would have fit their argument. It wouldn't have fit the situation, but it was the strongest case they could have used, the strongest case law they could have used to plead their case at the time, and they missed it. So this is a big miss, to miss a big old binding authority Second Circuit case for an argument you're bringing before the court. And I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention for these high-priced attorneys, and yet they missed it. So, but neither of these cases fail to the Wayfarer case, and that is the main point. Looking back at this Lugo versus City of Troy, Troy, like the defendants in Jones, did not object to the adequacy of plaintiff's pleadings until the summary judgment stage. So even if he had used this case to try to win his argument, it would have been the same thing. This is not the same as the Wayfarer case. Wayfarer, I finally glanced at the chat. Sorry, guys. I kind of ignore you till I get through, just because I get scattered so easily. Steph says, "Does Wayfarer need to respond?" They don't have to, but they can, and I'm sure they will. And I'm sure this is what they're going to say, that it's not the same thing because it was summary judgment stage. And ours wasn't. Ours was timely filed. So they get a chance, and I cannot wait for it. And I hope it is, like I said the other day, I hope it is saucy and spicy and delicious to set them straight that this case absolutely does not apply. Because if the judge doesn't take the time to look into this case and just takes Michael Gottlieb's word for it, and that is my fear, because as you know, ladies and gentlemen, it has happened in this case. Twice that it happened, Wayfarer had said and made statements. They were correct. They were true. Michael Gottlieb had filed a response to what they said and said the opposite. And he was wrong, but the judge had not looked into it and just took Michael Gottlieb's side, who was not telling the truth. And in one of those cases, he had made an order based on what Michael Gottlieb had said. And if you remember, it's when there was an issue about whether or not Brian Friedman had been attorney for Jed Wallace. And Michael Gottlieb said he wasn't. And so the judge made an order. He made a decision, a ruling based on Michael Gottlieb's word, and then had to go back and change it. How embarrassing. And the sad part is that there was a whole hearing on the matter that Lyman had presided over when it was discussed in the transcript that Brian Friedman represented Jed Wallace then. And it was in It was documented in his own words in an order, and he had completely ignored all that and just trusted Michael Gottlieb to his own humiliation in the end when he had to change his order because it wasn't correct. There was another situation, but I can't remember exactly what that one was now. That was sometime early last year when he had done the same thing. He took Michael Gottlieb's word, but it was actually Wayfarer who had the facts straight. So that's what worries me about this is if he doesn't take the time in his very busy schedule, if his clerks don't take the time, if they take just the little excerpts, the little quotes that Michael put in this document and take that as, oh, that's what this case decided, and then rules according to that, that's gonna really, really stink. I mean, it will be another thing that Wayfarer can add to an appeal, but it will just really stink because as you know, and this is the thing, and this is what I said on Omar's, because Omar was saying, well, all of Blake's little wins all along, they weren't gonna help her win in the end, but they help her win in PR. And that's what I can't stand because people who are not following the case closely, people who are not looking into what does Miller versus Lamanna say, they don't know better. They just read the headlines in People that say another big win for Blake Lively. And that is what irks me. So that's what I'm scared of, as always, whenever the judge is going to rule on something like this. Will he take Michael Gottlieb's word, or will he look into, does this case even apply to mine? So that's what I'm worried about. Okay, and then this is back to Miller. The federal rules. Did I read this? Let me look. I did not. The federal rules allow defendants to move to dismiss the complaint after the pleadings close. And that's what I was talking about. We don't usually refer to it as a motion to dismiss, but it is allowed. But here is the thing. The defendants in this case did not so move. They filed a motion for summary judgment, and there was a reply to that. There was back and forth. There was almost 2,000 pages worth of filings for a motion for summary judgment. There was no motion for judgment on the pleadings filed. And that's what a Rule 12C is. It's an MJOP. So rather than filing a 12C, and this is it right here, exactly what I've been saying, rather than filing a Rule 12C or even a belated Rule 12B6 motion, because a lot of the 12B6, like I said earlier, a lot of those expire and you waive them, but not the main one, failure to state a claim. So the 12B6 motion that I mentioned earlier that has a deadline of 21 days after the complaint, there is a part of that that is not those that expire that you can bring about belated by I believe you have to have leave of court to file that one, but it's still possible. But they didn't. So they had the ability to file these that are based on the pleadings or based on the complaint, and they didn't. That's why. It was a motion for summary judgment that is based on not Rule 12, but it's based on Rule 56. So that is what they did wrong. They styled their motion as one for summary judgment. They didn't just style it. It was a motion for summary judgment by name. So, and that type of motion carries with it particular standards. So if you file a motion for summary judgment, they apply Rule 56. That's the procedure. This is what they did wrong. The timing and the wrong motion was filed. So it's tailored to addressing the unique considerations that arise. Again, here's the timing after discovery has closed and the factual record, which is the all of the pleadings and all of the evidence in discovery has been developed. So those were the two things. So I seen some comments and some questions and stuff. So I wanted to clear that up. The issues in this case were those two. So there's some things out there that aren't quite right. It's the fact that it was after discovery and it was the wrong motion. So this is the summary of what was wrong in this case. Wayfarer does not have either of these problems. They filed the summary judgment motion, but they filed it quite a bit later in its correct time period, separate from the 12C motion for judgment on the pleadings. So, and it emphasizes it even more that, let's see, the fact does not, of course, mean that the court must assess the factual record if the claim raised in the complaint suffers from a fatal legal defect. So this is in this decision, and this also applies to Wayfarer. So if it suffers from fatal legal defect, if the complaint itself fails, you can still dismiss it. So it says this does not mean, of course, that the court must assess the factual record if the claim raised in the complaint suffers from a fatal legal defect. If there's no case, there's no case. Imagine, for example, that a plaintiff seeks damages allegedly suffered because the defendant violated a federal statute, but that statute does not create an express or implied private right of action. So say they say, "Oh, you violated this federal statute," but it doesn't. It's an absolute miss. Okay, in that case, it is, of course, true that no fact uncovered in discovery into whether the violation actually occurred can remedy the defect in the plaintiff's complaint, and the defendant can raise the legal issue with the plaintiff's complaint at any time, including after discovery. Okay, so what this is saying is if there is something that no amount of discovery can cure, the judge can say, this has a fatal legal defect. That would have been okay, but that wasn't the case with Miller versus Lamanna. So, for example, in Blake's case, she has some issues that Wayfarer has said there's no way to cure this. You can't remedy this defect. Like, for example, they say the FEHA claims applies California law. If he finds that that is the case, because she's a New York resident, these allegations, she say, happened in New Jersey. FEHA is California law. If the judge finds that there is no way to bring California law to her claims, what that means for this case would be that no amount of discovery can cure that. He can dismiss that without going into a Rule 56 standard and deep diving into her complaints. If that law does not fit what she's saying it fits, he doesn't have to consider it. It's kind of like the motion for sanctions. He's like, there's no causal, oh, my word's failing me right now. Like, you can't connect these two, so I'm not even going to consider the law in it. It's like that. So this is saying this still applies. They are saying by our ruling, we are not saying that you can't do this in the event that something suffers from a fatal legal defect, something that no amount of evidence can cure. They're saying even still, we're not saying you can't do that in that case. So a lot of that stuff that Wayfarer says Blake cannot attach to an actual statute, like, for example, that California law stuff, he can still say, I'm not even going to deep dive into the allegations because you can't apply California law here, so it doesn't fit your case. And that's that. So that's what this is about. I hope I explained that. I feel like I messed that up a little too much. But also interesting in the Miller versus Lamanna case, and this is where I felt like I kind of felt like in some of the things that they said, they were overstepping. They almost made it like a 12C doesn't count. But it's in the rules. You cannot take that right away from people. And Richard Sullivan agreed with that idea. He dissented. He said, I do not agree with, and I'm going on record. I'm not just dissenting, but I'm going to tell you why I disagree with this decision. Now, this doesn't change that this is binding authority for cases it actually applies to, but it just leaves a record that this was not a unanimous decision that and then he took the time to write, and he wrote quite extensively about why he disagreed with it. I just got this one little bit because this is kind of the main point that he made. He says that he doesn't think that the district court committed procedural error because the federal rules of civil procedure expressly permit a party to challenge the facial sufficiency of the pleadings anytime after the pleadings are closed, so long as such a motion is made early enough not to delay trial. So technically, he's saying even at summary judgment stage, even after discovery is over, that the rules themselves do not say that it stops at the end of discovery. That's kind of a baseline idea. That's when summary judgment begins. And so that's why throughout their ruling, and I think this is what he's objecting to, throughout their ruling, they kept saying summary judgment stage, summary judgment stage. And that has a specific date that starts at the close of discovery. But he's saying that's not what Rule 12C says. Rule 12C says that any time after the pleadings are closed, so long as it's early enough not to delay trial. And I believe in this Miller case that the trial date had not been set. So there was still plenty of time to plead this thing. So I think not so much I think this was the point he was trying to make. You guys are setting a hard and fast rule that you cannot file a 12C motion once the summary judgment stage has begun. And he's saying that's not what the rules say. But I really thought that was an interesting point, and he's absolutely correct about that. And this is that Rule 12H. This is where you can bring the the stuff like the motion to dismiss that has not expired. You can bring that later. But yeah, I think there's so many interesting things about all of this. And I do feel like New York does tend to overstep and kind of make their own rules on things like this. And I feel like he's trying to stop that from becoming a hard and fast rule in the Second Circuit, that you can't file an MJOP after the MSJ period starts. And he's like, that is not so. That's not what the rules say. So that was really, really interesting, I thought. So I just wanted to bring that all back to, because I felt like I had missed some of the information, and I hadn't read Lugo, and I wanted to bring that, like, you messed up, Michael Gottlieb. You didn't bring Lugo in when you had the time, and now you're trying to bring it in through Miller to extend your pleading period, and it's a no-go, and that bothered me. But also, I didn't feel like I stressed strong enough by showing, because I always like to show. I don't come and say, I'm a lawyer with this and this and this. So I like to always show you, and I think attorneys should show anyway. They should show you guys why they say what they say. Um, and I think it's so interesting to learn what the rules are and how they get applied and how binding authority is made. I just love all of this stuff. But anyway, that was that. Sorry, I ignored you guys again. So I want to have a chance to chat with you a little bit before I let you have the rest of your wonderful, wonderful um, weekend. Let's see. Oh, did I miss I'm Not Actually Golden with with Donna and Zach? Oh, that would be so fun. Are they live now or is it earlier? That would be so fun to see. Ricardo. I love Not Actually Golden, but I think my personality type would. Yeah, and she'd tear me to shreds. I think she would find me very annoying too. Um, let's see. Let's see. They do. They do everything in such bad faith. I agree, Julianne. Yes. Are you talking about Miller? The judge erred in covering to a motion to dismiss rather than an MJOP. Yeah, and an MJOP wasn't even filed in that case. So it's so very different. And like I said, going back to this timeline, it's like they want everybody to forget why the MJOP hasn't been decided yet. That was the judge's decision. He had it in September. He's the one who decided he was going to rule on it later, but that doesn't alter the date that it was actually filed. There was nothing wrong with the timing of it. And then the summary judgment was filed much later on November in November. Was it right on the date, November 19th? I should have written that down. Yeah, you're talking Miller. That's what I thought. All right. Wait, what? I think someone went after Law and Lumber too because he was the one who discovered the knife on the bed showing the cracked bed frame. What? What is going on? I am totally lost. You guys must have been talking about another case. See, that's why I don't look at the chat when I'm talking because if you're talking about something else, my brain is gonna lose its path. And yeah. Hey, Aunt Clara. All right. I love collaborations, but my style is always like so rigidly over the actual filings. It's not really like as so conversational. So it's kind of hard. And then I end up going so long anyway, just going through the filings and the law nerd stuff. So it kind of doesn't. I try to do some with Omar, and that goes a little more conversationally. But the my typical format is a little more like podcast style of. Oh, this is oh, wait, clicked the wrong one. Oh, the Depp trial. I didn't watch that. I was really into Murdaugh at the time. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I love the stuff that I felt like people would think was so boring. So I'm so happy uh that I found my people that like this stuff too. I think it's fascinating. You mean Omar monologues. And you know what? It's so funny, Christina. Did you see that Mary? She's always in there when she must be like a big fan of Omar's when we do things together because we talk. We've like become friends through this. And when you're talking with a friend, you're just talking and we interrupt each other. I interrupt him, he interrupts me. We both do that, but she's always like, "Stop. I wish Cassidy would stop interrupting. Let the man speak." And I just laugh to myself. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's hilarious." Because he interrupts me all the time. But I guess because she likes him and doesn't like me, she only notices when I interrupt him. So it's just so funny. You just can't make everybody happy. But it's not gonna stop me. I'm not gonna sit there and worry about making Mary angry. I don't even know who she is. She's not one of my subs. So, you're very good at getting Omar back on track. Yeah, you know what I do? Because I prepare my stuff. Like, I always have slides, and, I use PowerPoint to do it because you have that little note section at the bottom of PowerPoint, and so, I I sent him because I used to just send him the slides, like, when we were covering the Murdaugh, Hulu series, which we still have 2 more episodes of that to finish. I would just send the slides and just be like, "Okay, Omar, this is how we're gonna do it." Because I would have them all in order, like, how they happened on the, um on the show so that they were in chronological order so that when we would talk about it, we would go in order of the show because we're supposed to be like, just like detailing the show for people who don't have Hulu or something. And no matter what I do, I just cannot keep him on the right how things happened in time. Like, he just starts telling the whole story at the very beginning. He says things totally out of order, and I'm chasing him with the slides, and it's under his account, so I can't, like, put up the next group of slides. I have to wait for him to do it, but he's, like, talking about the group 3, and we're in group 1, and it's just so funny, but yeah. So this time, I sent him a PDF of the slides with all of my notes to try to, like, keep everything in the right time. It's so funny. But he's so fun and he's smart. And I love doing collabs with him. Oh, thank you, Julianne. Oh, thanks, Claire. I have fun. I have a lot of fun with him and also with Lauren too. Yes, he did, Sam Wolf. That's one of the many times that he spoke, I mean, disrespectfully. I mean, judges talk crap to attorneys all the time. I know that, but it's such a difference in the way he speaks to Blake's attorneys and Wayfarer's attorneys. And at first I thought he just really didn't like, um yeah, it was a summary judgment, Sam. Yeah, I just saw your yeah, it was summary judgment. But um at first I thought it was a Brian Friedman thing because there was some bad history with Brian Friedman and Judge Lyman's brother. They were completely on opposite sides of another big, ugly situation. And so I thought, oh, he just can't stand Brian Friedman. And I know even like Not Actually Golden doesn't like Brian Friedman's style. She feels like she said before she would be annoyed working with him. I think it's great. But um yeah, I thought it was him. But then when he started being rude to even Kevin, come on. How could you who doesn't like Kevin Fritz? And I think also even to Ellen, wasn't it? I can't remember if it was just maybe his response to one of her documents, maybe not an actual hearing. But yeah, he just treats all of Wayfarer awful. But yeah, he did. He yelled, he's like, "Oh, I'll ask you to take that back." It was like, good grief. Control yourself. You don't have to show us every hearing how much you hate these people. So, oh, do about Andy and I don't know if people get crushes on Omar or and so they don't like I don't know. I'm not going to say more about that and get myself in trouble. But when Cassidy and Omar are chatting, I love it when Cassidy asks if he can take over for a minute, as if that would be hard for him. Exactly. Exactly. Okay. Yes, exactly. Friends interrupt. It's what they do. Exactly. That's when you're having a friendly conversation. It's not like we're on a talk show being very, very prim and proper. And even on a lot of those, they interrupt each other. If they're more friendly, if it's not a more formal, like given the nightly news, it's what we do. But it's just funny. Like I think she just doesn't like me for some reason. Yes, yes, Michelle. Yeah. If you have nothing nice to say, keep your mouth shut. I can't imagine going to someone else's YouTube and telling them what to do on their channel, really. Like, seriously, like what makes people do that? Cassidy and Not Actually Golden keep me firmly grounded in the actual mechanics of what's happening and going to happen. Yes, I kind of follow the rest, but I'm here for the facts and the systemic functions. Well, thank you. I'm nowhere near her league, though. I try to just always show the rules, show the filing, show the case law as the authority for what I say, rather than like she can speak with her own 20 something years of experience, and that's amazing. You do get him back on track. You both have similar levels of passion. Yeah, I mean, I run my mouth, lose my place, interrupt, but so does he. So yeah, his squirrel mouth. Yeah. He's a lot of fun. Yeah, Aunt Clara, I agree. You gotta keep a sense of humor too. I mean, I know sometimes I get, like, really into the nerd bit of it all. Oh, hey, Bruce, I just saw you. This is exactly this is me too, though. I think 47 point ooh, shiny. That is both of us. That's unfortunately a lot of us creators because a lot of us tend to be neurodivergent. I think it's, why we get so attracted to these things because of the whole, like, justice seeking. Oh, hey, Leanne. I didn't know you were here. Lyman does speak differently to Lively's attorneys. I thought it was just Friedman, but he's popped off at them all at various points. Absolutely, exactly. Leanne, did you want to come up for a minute? I was going to close soon, but if you do, let me know. Um, I'd love to hear your take on this filing where he's trying to apply case law and say this is what the judge has to do. And I wondered if you shared my fear that Lyman will just take Gottlieb's word for it like he's done in the past. Yes, Ricardo, me too. This is why, despite his recent rulings, I refuse to bend on him being lapdog. I do not forget when someone has done something wrong. And, in this case, that actually affected me personally with those subpoenas that he allowed to happen. So that will forever be burned in my brain. But then when you look and see that back in 2022, he had only been he let's see, when was he appointed? I think in 2019, and then actually came to the bench in 2020. And 2 years later, they found in an investigation that 13 times he had not recused himself when he should have. That is a lot. That's like every other month plus one. 2 years on the bench, and you have 13 times that you should have recused yourself and you didn't. There's something missing about your opinion of yourself when you feel like you can go ahead and break the rules and do something that the rules say you shouldn't do as a brand new federal judge. It's to me, that said a lot about him. And then just the way when he dismissed Wayfarer and dismissed um Ryan, and not dismissed Wayfarer, dismissed Wayfarer's suits against Ryan and Leslie and New York Times. The way he did it was like l he was considering stuff that was very questionable for a judge to consider. He wasn't supposed to bring in any kind of evidence or try the facts of law, and he did. And then in hearings, he has I feel like he lawyers for Blake in the hearings. So, yeah, I don't forget stuff like that. And so, yeah, I'm happy that he ruled well on that motion for sanction, but that's not the only one. There are more coming. And there's this I don't like his decision to move to decide the MJOP. Oh, okay. I just saw I was kind of behind in um, the chat. Let me invite, Leanne here real quick. Okay, if that worked correctly, I sent it on X. Yes, Aunt Clara, memory of wrongs done is like an elephant. You don't forget that pain, you know? Yeah, all my favorite CCs have ADHD. Well, I think a lot of us content creators do. It's like our in our nature, this like justice seeking thing, because our brain is very into rules, very black and white, very, we don't like to see people bullied. We can't keep quiet when we see something being done wrong. And so we end up finding a platform so that we can talk about, hey, this was done wrong. I think that's part of it. And yeah, I not necessarily do so good in social situations. So this kind of social situation is what cures our need for that. So I'm speaking for myself, not for others, but yeah, I think that it brags us or drags us. I was saying bring and drag at the same time, brags us. I hate 47.1 too. It attracts us to this kind of stuff. I hate it too. And I was really happy to hear that Omar doesn't feel like Lyman's going to rule on that either, and he doesn't have to. I mean, it's a California state law. He doesn't have to apply it. So it would be ridiculous, in my opinion, for its first time that it's applied, for it to be applied here in a federal court in New York. Okay, Leanne, are you ready to go up, Leanne? I think so. I see you here. It's just shorty. Here we go. Here is Leanne.
Hiya.
Shorty. Lyman isn't an up jerk, in my opinion. I don't care what anyone says. He's a public servant. I will never defer to him or anyone because he's a judge. We may not be lawyers, but we are taxpayers with common sense. Yeah, I do not. I said it before, back when I got my subpoena, because people were just thought it was outrageous. Thought it was outrageous the way I spoke to a federal judge, but I was mad and he did me wrong. And I said, I don't tremble at robes. I don't care what his position is. He's a human. I'm a human. We are equal. And he respect is something that's earned. And if you disrespect me, I can disrespect you back. I don't care if you're in a robe. What he did was wrong. I'm cutting in and out. Am I still cutting in and out? Also, the hyperfocus, absolutely. That's why, like, the end of the day, I've not even eaten most days. Like, if I'm working, that's it. And I don't like to be interrupted, because if I lose it, I don't get it back. Like, you lose your place, you don't get it back. It's really, you can use it to your advantage to do some pretty amazing things, but it's not always a good thing either. Leanne, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I hear you now. I didn't hear you say anything, so I was like,
I was
thought you
letting you
were.
talk.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No.
So what do you think? I don't know how much of it you were here for, because I tell the chat now, I just ignore them till the end, because otherwise I get distracted and don't get through. But
I think I joined about halfway through. I was going to join at the start, but then I had like my kid who was like, "Can I have a sandwich?" So
oh,
I had to deal with that. Yeah, so I was like, okay, and then I forgot about it. Then I had my squirrel moment, and it's like, I'm sure there was something I was planning to do.
okay, okay,
But
good.
yeah,
Yeah, so I don't know, like, where I was, like, halfway through, if you got the gist of, well, I did uh, toward the conclusion, I kind of rewrapped the main point. So I
yeah.
just love to hear what you think of this.
Well, I mean, it's not going to like. I think people think that Gottlieb filed this because there's a bit of desperation there, and I have to say I agree with that.
Oh,
I do.
absolutely.
I think they're worried, and I think they should be worried. To be honest, I think that I think Lyman is going to, chop away a lot of her claims.
I think so too.
And I hope so. My kind of interpretation of this case is that it's not going to compel Lyman. He has to do something. All he has to really do is just, consider certain things as opposed to just, not consider them.
Hmm.
Does that make some, sense, really? I mean, that's what it kind of boils down to for me.
Yeah, I hope he brings that same energy that he ruled on the motion for sanctions with. Like, I'm not
Oh,
even going to talk
yeah.
about the law because there's no causal connection here. And
No.
it's the shortest little order. It was amazing.
It was. And did you see, like, he made a point of putting in a line as well to say, I basically saying that he's got no opinion on whether Friedman's statements were, right or wrong in particular. He made a sort of point of saying, that I'm making no opinion on this, because I
Yes.
think he's caught on to the fact that Lively's lot keep kind of saying, look what, Lyman said. And I think they
Wait,
kind of
you
twist his
blurbed out for a
words.
second. Can you
So
repeat
yeah.
what Blake says? Yeah, you bleeped out for a second. At least for
Oh,
me.
sorry.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, I think Lyman has caught on to the fact that anytime he kind of weighs in an opinion, Lively's like, if they can twist it, they do. So he
Yes.
seemed to make a point of saying, look, I don't actually take a position, but this is not sanctionable. May not be nice, but it's not sanctionable.
Yeah, so they can't go run and celebrate and say that they were right, about something,
Yeah.
but whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. But I was really pleased to see that. I was hopeful, actually. I think it's going
Me
to go
too.
one or two ways, because I don't think he's really hidden the fact that he does not like Friedman.
No.
Um, if he's trying to hide it, he's doing such a bad job. And I really thought the disdain was just a Friedman thing until I heard him go off at Fritz and then Ellen.
I
But
thought there was an Ellen situation because I remember being mad because I adore Ellen.
yeah, I know you do. And she is adorable.
Mm.
But yeah, no, he does. I mean, he has. It might be because he probably sees Gottlieb quite a lot in his court.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's like I like Blake Lively thing, but I know he probably sees Gottlieb quite a bit.
Mhm.
So it might be just just a familiarity thing. I don't know, but he is definitely more hostile um towards
Everyman.
Wayfarer's attorneys,
Yeah.
and it's not subtle. It's quite obvious. And I think this is either going to go one or two ways, because he is now denied sanctions against Friedman, who he clearly does not like, which is very it's very positive, actually. But this is either the calm before a shitstorm, or or it's kind of saying, do you know what, I'm over all the drama from Lively's side, and we're either going to see a series of rulings in Lively's favour now, or a series of rulings in Wayfarer's favour.
Yeah. Yeah,
It will,
I feel the same. I think it's so hard to guess too, because it's like, is this the little treat that you detract or distract your dog
yeah,
with when you want to give them the shot at the vet's office? You
exactly,
know, are we about to get something very, very painful? And so he gave us a little treat to make us
exactly.
happy for a second, or is it a sign of something better? But I love the energy of, you don't have a causal connection, so I'm not even going to waste my time with the law of this because it doesn't matter. So I really
No,
hope that that's going to play out with like the California. I really I can't imagine a way that California state law can apply to a New York resident about something that allegedly happened in
yeah,
New Jersey. So before you
no,
even try to consider, did this happen or not, what is there a
yeah.
connection?
Well, exactly. No, and this is the thing, because I've had a lot of people say to me, "Well, when he dismissed Wayfarer's claims, he applied California law," but that's different. It's and I think that this is like, because I think people think, "Oh, well, it's the same lawsuit." They're not. They are entirely different lawsuits. They have the same parties, but they are, the Wayfarer v. Lively and Lively v. Wayfarer are two different separate lawsuits that have been basically consolidated. And in the Wayfarer Lively case, they asked for California law because, California law applies to their claims,
Mhm.
of their business
False
being
light.
extorted, their film being extorted. These are California residents and California-based production companies. But with Lively's lawsuit against Wayfarer, this is a New York resident bringing an action against production company for things like you say that happened in New Jersey. So I can't see how California law does actually reach her claims.
Right. And the types of claims that they're not just normal causes of action. Like these are
No.
federal statutes and state statutes. It's different than a cause of action like you were saying, the taking over the movie, all the ones that applied to that, the false light, the defamation. Like those are not that's a completely different situation than her
Yeah.
Title 7 and her FIHA. So
Well, exactly, because
mm,
when Wayfarer are suing her for defamation or false light, well, what they're saying is you damaged our reputation as individuals and our company's reputation, and they're all based in California, so they're going to feel the harm predominantly in California, and that's why Lyman applied California to them. That makes complete sense. But when Lively's saying, well, I was sexually harassed and I want to claim under Section 47.1, but you weren't sexually harassed in California. You were nowhere near California.
right. And you weren't
So
harassed.
how can you apply it? Just because Wayfarer lived there, they weren't living and working in California at the time.
Right.
Because they
Exactly.
had an office in New Jersey for the purpose of this film, and a movie set moves.
Right. It had its own LLC and it was all
Yeah.
established there. And then even when it was about the taxes and stuff, it was none of it had anything to do with California. What do you think about this question? Is it
Hold on, I can't
ISIS?
hear you. Is retaliation going to survive? Oh, um, I haven't seen any evidence of retaliation.
Yeah.
I think the fact that he's not sanctioning Friedman, because she's saying that Friedman was part of the retaliation and part of the reason why it's ongoing till today. And the fact that he's turned around and said, I'm not sanctioning this, I think that's going to make it harder for her to try and make that argument if it goes to, if it does go to trial. But she needs to protected activity. So unless she can prove sexual harassment, and I don't think she can,
Right.
then there is no retaliation.
Right. Yeah.
And the sexual harassment, that's not as simple as oh, he looked at me funny, which is pretty much what her deposition says.
It
Um,
is.
it is like literally like, oh, he looked at me because I was too
In a
lazy to
way that
button
made
up my top.
it was for breastfeeding, Leanne. Come on, it was for breastfeeding.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go then.
Forget all the rest of the time. She loves to go out in a suit jacket with no shirt on underneath at all. Come on, we know how you dress, Blake. But I'm not saying you deserve something because I'm saying for her saying it was because of breastfeeding is absolutely hilarious. No, it's the way you dress.
Yeah,
But
but you can still zip up your onesie or
right,
button up your coat if you're not wearing something that covers you. You can still button it up. It's really no effort to undo a zip, even if you're breastfeeding.
right,
If you're that worried that someone might stare at you, um, there are measures. But no, honestly, if she unless she can prove the sexual harassment, which has got to be severe and pervasive.
right.
It's not as simple as like a one-off incident, or what I think here is, potentially miscommunications, misunderstandings. Because Jenny Slate had effectively had the same thing done to her, like
Mhm.
really, like the whole sexy comment,
Did you
and
see?
she said,
Oh,
she,
I'm sorry. Go. I'll let you finish, and then I'm going to
"No,
say.
I
But
was just going to say," and she actually told Ange Giannetti, "No, I don't think it was sexual harassment."
right,
So
right.
you know, yeah, go on.
Sorry about that. With Jenny Slate. I just saw Omar and I read it a couple of nights ago. It was in Ange's deposition. Ange looks back at her text messages to make sure it wasn't even the word sexy. It was the word hot.
Yeah,
We,
but
we
Justin
keep
Baldoni
sexy,
explained
sexy,
that though, didn't he?
yeah, but no, the remark to Jenny itself was not the word sexy. It was also
But
the word hot,
oh, was
which to
it?
me is different.
Because
Hot
that's
is
is go on.
to me, like hot is not on the same level. When you're saying someone is sexy, what does sexy mean? It means you looks like you want to have sex with them. But to say the word hot is just another way of saying, you look good. It's not the same level.
Oh,
But yeah, in Angie's deposition, she says the word sexy and she goes back and she's like, she looks at it again and she goes, "Oh, it's not sexy, it's hot."
yeah,
That's
you
what
know,
Jenny said to her. That's the first time I heard that. I've always heard Jenny say it was sexy. But when
well,
Ange looked back at her text, it was hot.
yeah, the story does change, and then you see that message from Blake Lively to Jenny Slate where she's almost coaching her, like, "Oh, remember this all happened," and it's like,
Yes.
do you know what I mean? Like a rehearsed kind of thing to let me just catch you up on what you need to say if you're asked.
Yeah. She's telling all of that. She's because Jenny was like, "Oh, well, I'm just gonna say this. I'm just gonna say this and leave it at that." And Blake's saying, "No, oh, what about this? Oh, you got to say it all." Yeah, it was ridiculous. So now now Jenny's a
Yeah.
little older and a little more established and probably not quite as starstruck as like Isabella was, but you can just imagine what Blake did to Isabella once you
Oh
see.
yeah. And did you see as well the whole argument that she's an employee, right? Did you
Yes.
see her the questionnaire she filled in for that nutritionalist woman? I can't remember. You know the person that Justin Baldoni
Yes.
referred to her to?
Yes.
There was a questionnaire. It's in
And
part of the
she put
unsealed
people
documents.
through it.
She was actually asked, what's your occupation? And she actually, Blake Lively, put, I'm self-employed.
Oh, did she? Oh, I missed that.
Oh, yeah. Have you not seen that?
I've seen the document, but I completely missed that because I noticed that Blake herself put in that she was interested in weight loss. Did you see that?
I did
That's what
see.
that's what and so I was like, she said because she made it like that was all Justin.
Yeah,
But she put that that's what she was interested in herself was weight
I
loss.
know. I know. It's wild.
I
But yeah,
completely
I, s-
missed
I s-
self-employed.
yeah, I know. She actually declared herself as self-employed. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's going to trip her up.
Oh, wow. No, I missed that. That's a great catch. I'm trying to find that,
In fairness, I think someone else had talked about it as well. So I'm not going to sort of take credit for that one, but I'm pretty
well,
sure
glad
that might have been Emmy actually. It might have been House of Chatter who noticed
oh,
it.
yeah, well, I'm glad you said something because I missed that. All right, there were
Yeah,
so many
yeah,
questions. I'm trying to pull up that deposition because it blew my mind. I agree, Aunt Clara, on capital steps, ranting, raving, and angry. Yeah. Lori asks, do you think the settlement judge told them their case is weak?
yeah.
I'm pretty
I do.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they would have been painfully honest with both sides about the strengths and weaknesses in their case, and I think I mean, it's glaringly obvious, and there's been so many problems now with her story changing,
Mhm.
with her contradicting herself, and I think it's going to come down to even if she had some evidence, there's enough now to say, well, is there a credibility issue here?
Mhm.
Because she's contradicting herself. Like the birth scene and the color of the underwear and everything. She was it started with it's a nude colored piece of fabric, and then you see the video, and it's actually a black pair of pants, which is exactly what Wayfarer and Monshine said.
Good.
And then she's changed in her Rule 56.1 statement. She's changed the color herself to match now, and knowing that video is out,
Yes.
and she's got to explain it, and she's hoping everyone forgets.
Yes, but we don't.
We don't
forget.
know.
What is NKOTB Day? What? I don't know what that is. Jesse?
New Kids on the Block.
There's a New Kids on the Block Day?
Is it NKO? Yeah, New Kids on the Block. That's what it was in my day anyway. NKOTB was New Kids on the Block.
What is New Kids on the Block Day?
I don't know what the day is, but New Kids on the Block was a band from like the 80s, 90s.
Yeah, I don't want to miss something fun, but you see how uncool I am? I'm just a law nerd sitting here reading case law all the time. I miss Oh my gosh, that is hilarious. I can't even read that. That is hilarious. You naughty, naughty, naughty. I agree with Cassidy regarding Judge Lyman taking Michael Gottlieb's word twice and ending up with egg on that. Judge Lyman is such a hard-headed with appeal.
Well, your sound is disappearing, Cassidy.
My and I start, and then stopped.
Are you streaming this from your car again? Because your sound is.
I think No, I think I got dropped. I probably have the Wi-Fi turned on instead of the landline. Hold on. Let me just make sure, because that messes me up. No, I think it's. I don't know.
You sound great at the moment, though.
Oh, okay. All right. Sometimes that's what it is my I've turned on Wi-Fi for some reason, and that's not as stabilizing, especially if I have someone join. But okay. Surely Judge Lyman is tired of Gottlieb making him look like a fool and will automatically fact check him on everything instead of believing his lies as fact by now. If not, shame on him. Exactly. The bad thing is he'll be making some pretty permanent and important decisions. So that's really, and to say, to reserve it for appeal, like that sounds good, but not everything makes it to appeal, and even harder to get things overturned. So like that doesn't that's not always the answer. So here it is, this part of the deposition. So this is Ange, and she's being deposed by Ezra, and she's like, wait a minute, I got that wrong. And she asked, do you want to correct something? And she said, yeah, I thought Justin had said she looked sexy. And it says here, and then she reads directly from the messages. You were standing there for the thing, and he said to me, he said, I look hot. And she asks, who's Ezra right away panicking, who's that you're reading from? And she says, Jenny. So that got twisted from hot to sexy. And I feel like that's a distinction. That's an important enough distinction to be made.
Yeah, definitely. Because we know when he said hot to Blake Lively, he was talking about the literal room temperature. And when you look at the video of that scene, like, all those people in that room, the cameras and everything, and then the actual day itself is just a really hot day, you can understand what he's on about, and it got twisted. I mean, I'm sure we don't know what he meant when he said it to Jenny Slate. I mean, leather trousers can be kind of really sweat-inducing, can't they? But we don't know.
Yeah.
But it is. You're right. It's different. It's not the same as sexy.
It's not the same at all. So,
And the fact that
yeah.
they were running around misquoting themselves, their own traumatic statement that, made them, unable to get out of their bed, is just really worrying.
Well, the whole makeup trailer scene, there's 4 different versions of what happened, and the only matches that can be found is that both Blake and Jamie say that he knocked and she said, "Come in." But when
Yeah.
you look at all the rest of the details, they are so different. The women, they're to me, their stories are useless because they don't even match each other. One says she was standing there in a thong, the other says she was sitting there breastfeeding. One said that because she was breastfeeding that she took a washcloth to cover her other breast. The other one says she took like a cloak and put over her.
Hello?
Did I go out again? Am I gone again? Hello? Hello?
And got you now. I heard anyway, the thong and then the breastfeeding and then you went.
Oh, okay. So the one says she's breastfeeding and that she's putting a washcloth on the other breast, and the other one says she's wrapping her in a cloak. So is she standing? Is she sitting? Does
I
she have a
know.
washcloth on one boob and a baby on the other, or does she have a cloak over her? Like what?
And the,
And
and there was another version as well where he was a couple, one or two people were saying, oh, he looked directly at her, and then someone else said, oh, he looked at her through the mirror.
yeah. So it's such a weird situation.
How you can't get that? Because as well, they also, the makeup and the hair women, they were like, oh, we said no, don't come in. And then Blake Lively and Alex Sachs both said, well, he was allowed to come in, but he wasn't to look at her.
Yeah. So they don't match. And then I'm
No,
I'm thinking to myself, if you've now by your own admission invited the man to come into your makeup trailer.
yeah,
Did you just like stay standing there in nothing but a thong?
yeah,
Did you did you cover yourself up? Like why would you if you're so worried about him looking, if I'm sitting there and I'm breastfeeding or not dressed, and I invite a man into my trailer to come and have a conversation with me, I'm gonna cover myself up.
yeah.
So how is it that she's, like, sitting there going, "And my breasts were still out and he was looking." I'm like, Why were your breasts still out?" And
And
what like, what?
I still have a big problem with all of that, with any version of that anyway, in that if you look at, and Asshole Media does a really good job of pulling out stuff like this, but
Oh, I love
you
her
can,
stuff.
I know, right? She's amazing. But if she's got like a couple of clips of like in past projects where Blake Lively has been heading into a trailer, and the staff that are around her, the security people on the door. How did Jamie Heath just barge in?
Right.
How did that happen? And if you look at her first complaint, she said that him and Justin were constantly barging in her trailer. Well, now
Yeah,
we've whittled it down to
this
they did
one.
it once each, but they were both seemed to be invited. So it's like none of this is making sense at all. And
No,
these are the kind of the credibility issues that she is going to have. And I think if it does go to trial, Friedman will have her for breakfast.
absolutely. Absolutely. And can you imagine her on the witness chair?
Yes.
Getting questioned and the word salad flowing, and I mean, she would be so easy to impeach. Already,
Yeah.
there's records from her separate complaints that they can use that are different from her deposition, and changes from the first complaint to the or to the first amended complaint to the second amended complaint. I mean, there
Yeah.
is so much already to impeach her with that she doesn't stand a chance. I agree with this. It's all PR for Lively at this point, and maybe fodder to say they have a reason to appeal, even though they won't. She's best off. It all gets tossed now. Yeah, like she should have quit this a long time ago. It just gets worse and worse for her. And I don't know if you saw the episode I did about the Friends case, Leanne, but what ended up happening there, because there was a woman who worked in the writing department for a time period, and it was an adult TV show, and sex was mentioned. Things like
Mm.
threesomes were mentioned. There was lots of stuff, like as far as they could possibly go on TV, they went. And so when she was interviewed, she was told, this is a creative space. They talk about sex. They talk about personal things about sex as they try, they bring their personal experiences to the writing to bring it over into, like, they bring real relationships into these fictional relationships. Will you be
Yeah.
okay with that? And she said she would. But then when she got fired later, because turned out she couldn't keep up with the transcription or her actual job duties. So they fired her. And then she tried to say that, let's see, she brought racial discrimination into it. And then she
Oh yeah.
said it was sexual harassment because she said these men would talk about their own sex lives with their wives, which is one of the claims that Blake has made. And it came out, they said, this is not, like, maybe this would be, or not maybe, this would be inappropriate if it was an office or a
Yeah.
factory floor. But this is a creative area, and you cannot, I mean, if they bring a lot of stuff in, they toss it around, they have to talk about it because I mean, what do you have when you're going to write a sex scene? What do you have except your own experience?
Well,
So it gets
exactly.
mentioned, it gets brought into there. And this is exactly what was happening when some of Blake's worst allegations against Justin were they actually took
Yeah.
place when they were sitting there trying to write creatively these sex scenes because Ange
And
was saying, make it spicier. It's not hot enough. Make it more grown up. Make it sexier. We want heat. And so he spoke with the intimacy coordinator, and it turns out all that stuff like female gaze and those kinds of things, it came from a woman's organization that is
yeah.
literally out there trying to change the way these scenes are portrayed in Hollywood, whether it be movies or TV. And they take movies and TV shows and they rate them according to this standard. They call it the CLIT test. They
Yes.
made that up. They made that up, not Justin. They say female gaze. Justin didn't make that up. So this intimacy coordinator brought this to Justin's attention and said, let's follow this. And so he goes to Blake with it, and all of a sudden she's appalled at the thought of a woman's pleasure standpoint. And to her, she was being harassed over discussing this creative scene from this standpoint. And so because she even goes, oh, he's talking about C's and he's talking about, oral and all this, but it's actually stuff that two professionals sat there and talked about professionally, and she missed the meeting, so he had to come to her home as usual and review this stuff with her, and then he gets accused of harassment. He should have not agreed to go to her home. He should have said, no, you have
Yeah.
to come and talk to this intimacy coordinator with me, and let
She
the
wouldn't
say
budge
it.
on stuff like that because, like, even for fittings, she wouldn't get off her backside and travel the 15-minute journey to go to the wardrobe to get measured and fitted and everything. It all had to be delivered to her house. But yeah,
Absolutely.
I do think that his mistake was having all these various meetings at her home. But
Mhm.
I find it interesting though that he happened, and I think I said this on a live with Omar, actually, with Omar and Emmy. I was like, what strikes me is, in my experience, with my background, my professional background, and the amount of sort of sexual harassment or sexual assault in the workplaces, right, where we've dealt with claims and we've heard various allegations by women, right, nearly always, I mean, I can't even literally think of a real life situation where someone has been sexually harassed blatantly in front of a full audience. It's
Right.
always covert and discreet, and they don't go out of the way to get caught. But the thing is, right, is all the times that Justin Baldoni was on a private plane with her or at her home, and there was not one instance really, other than the circumcision conversation, which was like before she even signed on to the film, which which is, you know, again, that's debatable whether that would even, well, she didn't add it into a complaint, so I'm not going to, you know, say it's sexual harassment, but it was a conversation. And other than that, there is literally nothing where the two of them are in private and he's sexually harassing her. Even when he
Right.
was in the trailer with her crying his eyes out for hours, there's no allegation of he tried to sexually harass me while we were on our own. It's always when he's in front of a full set, which
Yeah,
makes you know, with
makes
cameras
no
on him and sound, and this makes no sense. Like, why would he do that?
right. If he were gonna try to do that to harass her, he had plenty of opportunities, like you said,
Yeah,
in her home or on the plane where or in her trailer that he could have done that, and he didn't. So what
no,
does that tell you? But it's even crazier too that she would make him come to her place because she changed the location of filming. They were gonna film in Boston, and
yes,
they changed the whole location of filming for her to be nearer to her home, and she still couldn't go the 15 minutes, and she has a driver, like, she didn't even have to drive
I
herself,
know.
but always made him come. It was just absolute I mean, she was just, like felt like she was the queen, the belle of the ball. It was ridiculous. I agree, Aunt Clara absolutely makes no sense, and yes, rude to Ellen. Yeah,
Yeah,
how could anybody be rude to Ellen or Kevin? I
but
feel like
like, you
Raymond couldn't care less if you're rude to him, but these other
know,
people, come on.
but I didn't. I really don't get like because when I like, you know, like heard or read complaints, or I've spoken to people who have said, you know, do you know what, in the workplace I've been sexually harassed by my boss. I have, you know, it's always stories of I went into to the stock room or something and he followed me in and shut the door and he
Mhm,
wouldn't let me out.
mhm,
It's
mm,
those kind of things, or you know, it's just really subtle kind of sleight of hand movements or gestures, which they almost always do out of earshot and out of sight.
right,
Because that's the whole point. Then it becomes a he said, she said.
right,
But
and
I don't understand the logic why Justin Baldoni would have so many opportunities to do it, you know, behind closed doors, you know, out of view and out of anyone's earshot, but he would choose to do it when the cameras are rolling and he's surrounded by hundreds of people and he's
yes,
got witnesses. She's got witnesses all of a sudden. That bothers me, I think, because, you know, because I see what the real life claims look like, and
mm,
it just doesn't fit.
it
Doesn't fit.
doesn't, it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. He was not I mean, you could tell by the way he looks at her, he was annoyed by her. It was just like, "Oh, like, why did I hire her? When is this movie gonna be done? When is she gonna shut up?" Like, that scene you
Yeah,
mentioned with the onesie, I went through that, I actually played that video, just a couple of weeks ago, and you can see the expression on his face. He's so irritated, and I said because he said now that he also has, ADHD, so
yeah,
looking at that room the way it was, that is a neurodivergent nightmare. I would not
yes.
have survived that room. I wouldn't
No,
have
I
been
wouldn't
able to
have.
stay in there. It was noisy, it was crowded, it was hot, people were talking over each other, and like I
Yeah,
said that about rules, like when to me, like when the director spoke, everybody was supposed to listen and they weren't listening, and that was making me feel crazy just watching the video and I wasn't in the room. So, like
yeah,
you can look at his face and that man is in pain. Like, he is
yeah,
in mental anguish, and he's doing an amazing job at keeping it under control, because me, I start crying, like, not out loud, like, I just like, tears just flow when I'm
yeah,
in a situation like that. Like, I remember one time we were in Paris, and we'd gone to Versailles, and on the way there, the train was amazing. You know, here at home, I don't take public transportation, but I was traveling, so I was on a train. On the way there, the train was empty, but on the way back, it was so crowded. And I don't like no, to my friends and family, I hug everybody. Very
mm,
affectionate, but I do not like a stranger to touch my body. Not like even just on purpose, but like if someone's sitting next to me, too close to me on the plane, and I'm in economy where legs touch, if they're a bigger
yeah,
person and come in my space, I like scoot as far away, like, I cannot stand a stranger to be touching my body in any way. And I mean,
no,
it was like people just more and more people were coming in and I was standing and and it just like I can't help it. Just tears, just and then it's like sobs, quiet sobs, like I can't deal with it. It's too much for me. Till finally, we were able to maneuver over to the back wall, and then my husband just put me at the back wall, and then he just stood and like pressed his body against mine to where like nobody could touch me. And then I
Yeah.
was okay. And that, I mean, that's living with this unfortunate um disorder. But so like watching
We,
him like handle that was
yeah,
amazing.
definitely.
But you can
But
see that he's looking at her, and like what's on his face, he is not ogling her. He is looking at
no,
her like, why are you wearing that coat, lady? You look crazy, And he's like telling her, take it off. He's like, because we're all wearing, like, you can read his lips. And I did like a caption of like what's the bits that I could hear or read his lips that he was saying. And then he's like,
and
when he said it's hot, he's talking about the temperature. And he's like,
and
well,
you,
we're all wearing these because she's refusing to take the coat off. And it was so stupid. And that's what you see on his face. You don't see ogling.
you
You see
do.
like, what is wrong with you, Blake?
You do, and to be fair, like by the point that that film scene is filmed as well, we've already had all the other incidents. Like, so he's been through that exhaustive process. Like, this is not like that's not the first day. This is coming actually towards the end of, the actual filming before she, runs off to London. So it's
Right.
literally only days away, really. And he's already had the trailer incident. We've had the crying incident. He's had to append the location, the schedule, and so on and so forth. They're still arguing about contracts because you got to remember he's not just the director and the actor. He's also like the co-founder, and he's got to be dealing with all the legal wrangling that was going on over her contract as well. And, it's just, she'd already asked if she could take a pass at the rooftop scene. And then he was trying to explain, I don't love it, but,
Yeah.
we'll use a bit of it. But, and then he got met with the dragons and everything. But I
Yep.
agree with you. And I've spoken about this before. And I've said, it's like my kids are, they're autistic. And I've got two with ADHD as well. And, I'm very much kind of aware of what Justin Baldoni reminds me of. When you're unsure in social settings about how you're going to be received, and I can imagine by this point he really didn't know what to say or do, what was the right thing to say or do.
Mhm.
You just start mirroring, and I saw a lot of that. I saw, like the conversation about Britney Spears. When Jenny Slate and Blake Lively had a conversation about Britney Spears's midriff, and all he did was say "same" because he was just trying to be involved in the conversation, and then they were like laughing him down, and the poor guy just can't do anything right.
Oh, no.
Are you cutting out, Cassidy?
Oh, sorry. My bad. I'm so sorry. Back.
Oh, I'm gonna just wait here a second and see if Cassidy comes back. Hmm.
Right. Am I back, guys?
Oh,
We had some, like, really bad wind come through a couple days ago and do some crazy stuff, so I think there's something maybe off with the internet, so it's not going so well, so hopefully I think I should probably end this soon anyway, but, let me
right.
just put this back up, um, so there's a um, yeah, I was saying that, this comment by Sam Wolf is so good, um,
Yeah.
uh yes, that he seemed very irritated about having to rule on this and kept bringing it up, like, why should he? And because it's your job, because it's by the federal rules allow it, so, you know,
Yeah.
he did get nasty, like, he didn't wanna do it, and so that kinda worries me that that will make him, um, be happy that Michael Gottlieb provided this and try to somehow use it, um, to make his decision. Yeah.
Yeah. I just can't see a way that I mean, I'll never fail to be surprised by Lyman, but I can't see a way how um the Title VII claims aren't like, yeeted out of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they have to be.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see whether Lively tries to use this recording with Jed Wallace. I don't see a way that she can because it's not relevant and it'd be too prejudicial. But I bet she has a good go at it.
Yeah, I'm assuming they're gonna try. They're gonna file something, even if it's just to get the money from the filing. But,
Yeah.
yeah, I hate that that's even being brought up because nobody
Yeah.
ever said that Jed Wallace and Melissa Nathan were angels. I don't
No.
like the way Melissa Nathan, Katie Case, and, Brianna Kozlow spoke in their messages. They're not nice people. I've
No,
never
they're not.
to defend
And
them, but
yeah,
here's the thing, they offer in the package all different things that they are willing to do, and so
yeah,
anything that they did for anyone else is completely irrelevant for what they did to Wayfarer. There's nothing
yes.
to prove that something was done
No.
beyond what the package that they took. So, I mean, you can you can no, that was gonna be a ridiculous thing that popped in my head to say, but to me, it's completely irrelevant, and nobody
Yeah.
ever said I mean, I love Jed Wallace's attorney, Charles Babcock, but nobody
Yes.
ever said that Jed was an angel.
Well, actually, I went as far as to say he's not. I
Yeah,
feel I feel sorry for him in this action because there's no evidence he's done anything that was suggested by Blake Lively. And I have seen no evidence, and to be honest, I'm not entirely convinced that he did smear her at all.
right.
Because Wayfarer were specifically saying, "Don't do this." We're only just doing this and we're doing that, and it was just push positive stories. It wasn't drag anyone through the mud. But I have
Mhm.
talked about the Bam Margera case where Jed Wallace was sued by Bam Margera, who's obviously people probably know him from Jackass. And
Mm.
Jed Wallace in that situation pretended to be a doctor
Oh,
and
wow.
basically forced Bam Margera to comply with a wellness policy under the threat of being pulled from the latest Jackass movie, which he was ultimately pulled from anyway. And Jed Wallace was not a nice guy in that case at all.
No. Yeah,
He
that
really
sounds
wasn't.
yeah, and, like I said, no, we didn't know I still think Jen Abel's a sweetheart. She didn't do anything, like, really awful, but, like, Melissa Nathan, obviously does awful stuff to people, and you could just hear the way the 3 of those texted. The things they said about Jen Abel was disgusting,
Yeah, and
they're just mean people. So but that doesn't mean that Wayfarer asked them to do those same things in this case. And I always come back to, if this really happened, you should be able to find people say all the time, the internet is forever. You should be able to find something out there that came from Jed Wallace or Melissa Nathan. And you can't. You can find a lot of criticism out there about Blake, but when you go to, okay, where did it come from? You find the author. Like I've said a lot of stuff, brought out a lot of stuff
Yeah.
about her, but I'm a real person.
Yeah.
My account existed long before. I had nothing to do with Wayfarer. And I wasn't in the list of people that they contacted because I've never been contacted by them, by any of them. And
No.
so, but here's the thing, if they were actually behind something, there would be some piece of evidence. But all of the criticism that's out there about Blake came from real people with real opinions that had nothing to do with anyone at Wayfarer. We were
Yeah.
just speaking from our own observations. And these things started 2 years before when it was first announced that Blake was going to be in this role. People didn't like her for the role. It escalated when they saw pictures of her in this role, and then it just
Right.
continued on from there. But there would be something somewhere that could be traced back. Okay, this is bots. Okay, this is not
Yeah.
a real person. Okay, this person was paid. And with all of the extensive discovery that they were allowed to do and did, they could not find anything other than people like you and I who just see stuff and we talk about it with our own opinions.
Well, exactly.
So,
And the thing
yeah.
is this quote unquote smear campaign, technically it did start when it was announced that Blake Lively was going to play the role because, the Colleen Hoover fan base thought she wasn't the right person. She was too old. And then you had Colleen Hoover saying, well, I had to age the character up to make it basically fit around Blake. And then
Mhm.
you had the backlash over the wardrobe, which led to Justin Baldoni going to her trailer and, allegedly crying for hours. Well, he was sent in there by Sony. I don't think
Right.
Sony should have left it to him to do that. I think Sony
No.
should have said something.
If they're the ones with the issue, they're the ones who should have. It should have been Ange. Somebody else should have done it. But I look at all the
Exactly.
situations where she complains. It's always where she gets told no or
Yeah.
gets her feelings hurt, and then
Well,
reacts. And she remembers an unpleasantness, but she doesn't want to say, "Oh, it's just because they said this about my clothes." She wants to say, "Oh, it's
because I'm
he
fat.
just got." Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, I just
ridiculous.
had a baby, blah blah. I mean, the overreaction as well in the text messages between her and Taylor Swift to Justin Baldoni not really knowing much about pop culture. I think that was one of the wildest things I've read in the entire case, and I've read that docket back to front. I can't believe the utter contempt for Justin Baldoni just because he said he doesn't really pay much attention to pop culture.
Yeah,
And she was like, how dare he not know who you are? I was like, seriously? Ego much?
I know. Like, for some
Like,
people, that's not important. Like, I've never
no,
cared about celebrities. Never cared
no.
about celebrities.
I'm
So it
sure
just
he's heard of Taylor Swift, but he probably
right.
doesn't
But
listen to
you
her that
know all
much,
the
you know?
details of her yeah, yeah. So, thank you, Selma. She says, "Look into how Gottlieb handled Drake defamation and lost. I think he just takes celebs' money." Oh, yeah. These
Yes, he
people
does.
are happily taking this money. Mama,
Oh,
does he look like getting
absolutely.
father with hubby?
You know, I tell you how much, I tell you how, here's an example of categorically they're just taking her money and billing her for everything, right?
Oh,
Lawyers bill for everything, right? Every single email is all itemized, right?
mhm,
In the UK, we do it in like 6-minute increments,
mhm.
and and there's a fixed fee for most, like as a like a short email, long email. I got four emails telling me not to record for, when we arranged a meet and confer, which I didn't end up going ahead, but I had 4 different people from Manat email me just to remind me of California laws, which don't even apply to me anyway,
Yeah,
Do not record. Do not have anyone in the room. Do not do this. Do not do that.
I remember.
And it's like, how many emails do I need? But they're billing her for each and every one of them.
Yep. Yep. Well, they
And I'd
never
already
got
replied to the first one to confirm I had no intention of recording.
wow.
And
That's
it was
that's what they're
crazy.
doing. Yep.
Yeah, no, why send out, for instance, like 107 content creator subpoenas, and you're already pursuing one now currently. You got nothing from any of the others, but you're pursuing one, the one person who's doing a documentary and has spoken to cast and crew. Everyone else you've walked away from without getting anything whatsoever. Why even file it then? All of that money.
All that money
All that
was
money that would have cost thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on its own.
but don't you think it's funny that as much as they overfiled stuff constantly, that the responses to us was so little tiny? Doesn't that say that's to me that says so much? They
Oh well,
knew that they couldn't defend it legally. They just would put out a little thing to withdraw it.
yeah,
Well,
but to
where
be fair,
normally they fight.
I think between like the five of us who did the motions to quash, I don't think they expected the kind of, global reckoning that came their way with, we've basically all filed 30 pages of you're an asshole and we don't like you, oh, and by the way, the law doesn't touch us, goodbye.
Exactly. It was like I laugh about it because it was such a funny thing to like invite us onto the docket. Like, what a
Yeah, that
dumb,
was a mistake.
absolutely dumb move. The mouthiest people out there, and you gave us an opportunity to speak on the docket. Such a
Yeah.
dumb thing. Still, like, think it's hilarious that we
I,
beat
I
the
will say
$1 million
one thing though, about
law.
that. Like, I haven't really spoken about this much because, like, I mean,
So
it was.
this Jesse's amazing. If you guys don't follow Jessie, you should. She
Oh
comes
yeah,
up.
yeah, definitely follow that.
So the
But like,
submitted an official attorney approved statement about what happened in the trailer is when I'll have to look that up to see what you're talking about here.
but I think, like, after the aftermath,
Let me
because
write
I
real.
didn't really talk much about the aftermath of that subpoena. But like, and and I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, that quite a few of us felt the same. But like, when we're
Right.
talking about being overwhelmed and overstimulated, with Justin Baldoni.
Good. Oh yeah, when he was on Popcorn Planet, Ron Zambrano thinks she will try to get it in. I mean, oh, good that somebody knew that Ron talked about it. Not good that she's going to try to get it in. But yeah, I can't imagine them not trying to, because you can file motions to try to get discovery in past the discovery window. You have to get leave of court to do it. But this is definitely one of those situations where they're going to try that.
Oh no,
Who?
it's on the docket as part of the Amanda Ghost thing. I think it's in evidence. Like,
I don't know. What do you think, Leanne?
I think it's on the docket. And I'm not sure it's a leak. I'm pretty sure I've read
That
that
again?
it's part of the Amanda Ghost lawsuit. It's on the docket. I'm sure I heard Ashley mention it. I may be wrong because I haven't got it in front of me. But
Or I'm moving, but I don't hear anything. Is it just me, guys?
oh, can you hear me now? Hello?
Oh, there you are. Yeah, I
Oh
couldn't
yeah.
hear you. I could see your icon
Oh.
moving, but I don't know if it was just me.
Oh no, sorry. No, because I was having a long chat about I was having a chat about
It
how
looks like
depressed and
the chat could hear you.
overwhelmed I was.
Sorry. So
No, 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 no. Yeah, no. I'm not following the Amanda Ghost side, but from what I'm sure I've seen, and I think it might be Ashley. I may have heard it from, but I may be wrong, so I don't want to commit to that. But I thought that it was actually on the docket, this audio. In that case.
in that case. Oh, is that what it was? Oh,
I don't know. It might be a leak. I'm not
I
following that
keep
case.
hearing it referred to as a leak. So
It could
I thought,
be. But if it's, I mean, I think it's something that may have been, if they're in discovery, it could really have come from any side.
yeah.
I'm a bit like, I know there's a reference to Brian Friedman being involved in all of that as well. I can't see him doing that. I would be massively shocked because that would be kind of career ending if he was involved in stuff like that.
Right. Right. Because there are rules about that. So Leslie Sloan called the media to get it noticed. Is all the leak was. It's already available. Okay, thank you, Pam. Yeah, you just never know when you hear words. Sometimes they put salacious words out there just to catch people's eye. If you just say it's a court filing, there's a lot of people who would just turn away. But if you put leak, that will get attention. So it's not surprising that.
Yeah.
Um, so
Absolutely. And this is the thing, right? When we talk about Melissa Nathan and Jed Wallace, we've also got to remember there are the Stephanie Jones and the Leslie Sloans of the world. And PR is like a backbiting business. It is not all, let's just promote the good. There is the side that pushes out bad content or manipulates content to make someone look bad. And that is all still part of the job and it's all still fair game. Where it crosses lines, though, is, when it's in retaliation to a protected activity.
mm-hmm. Yep.
Otherwise, it's all, there's no law against smearing someone. You can't defame them, but you also can't smear someone who is, because you're retaliating against them making a complaint for sexual harassment or something like that.
Mm. So, Leanne, I was talking over you because I thought it was your sound because I could see
Oh,
your thing flipping. So, if it probably really badly interrupted what you were trying to say. So,
I,
whatever,
I no,
if
it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't anything. We were talking about the subpoenas, and I was just like, you know what? I haven't really said much about this, but like, because we were talking about, overwhelm and everything with Justin Baldoni, and I just thought back to, the aftermath of the subpoena, and you'll get this because we were all there together,
mm-hmm.
and I was like, remember I was like literally functioning on no sleep because I'm in a completely different time zone, and I was kind of, awake through most of what was my night, and I was chatting with you, chatting with Laura, and chatting with Ashley, and we were kind of putting our heads
Right.
together, supporting each other, and helping each other out and everything. But when all that was done, the overwhelm really hit me hard. It was one of the hardest things I have been through since I left my abusive marriage, actually, because it was the first time I'd really had a threat to having, someone going through all my information again and all
Mhm.
that. And
Well, it probably reopened your trauma from that.
I think it did. And I remember Perez did a video after he won his, after she Lively withdrew the subpoena she had against him, where he was just in absolute tears. And he was
Mm.
he was talking about how he was having panic attacks and everything. And I was like, and I contacted him as well, actually, because, and we talked a bit about it, and I was like, yeah, do you know what? I get that. What you have, what you're going through is actually, because he was like on this video, he's like, I don't know if this is normal. So I remember contacting him. I was like, yeah, it is actually, because I had the same thing, and it was a really weird thing because when I went through it, I didn't know if it was normal. And yeah, it was just that it was. So I think we were kind of just like we'd been talking about the subpoena, and we've been talking about emotional overload and overstimulation. And I was like, oh my god, the subpoena though took me to a really dark place.
Yeah. Well,
Really dark.
you and I both had people on Reddit at the time trying to find us in real life.
Oh my god, yeah.
So it opened up. I mean, people were sending me screenshots of these women who call themselves lawyers on
Mm.
Reddit, and they were sitting there openly discussing how they were searching for us. the
Yeah.
places that they searched for us, they were like listening to what we said. They were like spiders in a web over California waiting for us to respond in California to the subpoena, because you
Yeah.
we would have had to put our names in there, and they were literally watching dockets there to see if we were going to respond there, because that's where Google was. It was
Yeah.
it was awful. And I
And we had to, me and you in particular, actually, we had this in common where we had to jump through hoops because obviously you tried to use your channel name and Lyman was having none of it. So then you had to
no,
jump through hoops
we did
then.
it
And I
twice.
was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I had to legally change my name
It was
to
crazy.
just file. And it's like, wow, you know, there was, because it felt like I panicked when that happened to you because I was like, my God, there really is no protection here for non-parties.
Yeah,
You see, I
yeah,
think in the UK we would have there would have been protections, you know, there would have been something that we
yeah.
could do.
But
But
Discovery here is so open. Like it's crazy.
yeah,
There's because this wasn't my only situation. There's
no,
a there's another one with the whole Murdaugh thing. There's an offshoot of the Murdaugh case that has to do with the boat crash that Paul Murdaugh was driving, and it's like what led to his death in the first place, his father murdering him. But he killed a young, beautiful girl by the name of Mallory Beach. And
yeah,
so there was a lawsuit brought against the family for that. Paul, um, the dad, because it was his boat, the mom, because it was her credit card that he used to buy the alcohol, the brother, because it was the brother's ID that he used to buy the alcohol. And one of the people that's being sued um, was an owner of a large chain of gas station supermarkets, and he's a billionaire. His name is Greg Parker. So I would cover those cases, and you know me, I'm mouthy and I'm opinionated, and they just assumed that I was, I don't know, hired to do it or somehow communicating with or doing this at the behest of Mark Tinsley, whom I absolutely adore as an attorney. He's my favorite down there, but they thought I wasn't involved with it. Okay, so
mm,
my name shows up in those documents as well. Let me tell you about this man. The boat crash is over, but a conspiracy case is happening right now simultaneously with this case, because when he was being sued for the boat crash case, instead of fighting fair, he went out and he hired, he's like I said, he's a billionaire. He went out and he hired and he got his attorneys to play dirty for him too. He got these PIs. One of them is a former like FBI terrorism unit guy, like this big. It's kind of like with Blake and Ryan. They hire the ex-CIA guy. It's
yeah,
like that. They go overboard because they have the means to do it. They get this he reports specifically and only on the Middle East. He's been on C-SPAN. They hired this guy. He starts putting out this blog and this huge article. It ends up in the Wall Street Journal. It ends up on Dateline, I think was or 2020, one of those shows. So what they've got private investigators following around Paul. They've got a camera set up across the street from where he lived. The rest of the people that were in the boat crash, these are young college girls being followed by these creepy PIs around their college campus. And they're just looking for these people to mess up so that they can report about it. Because what they were trying to do is shift the view. Instead of like, oh, this beautiful poor girl that was killed, they're trying to say, oh, these kids are trash, this family's trash, and to just like change the public perception of the whole thing, because everyone was so shocked and horrified about this death. And the liquor was bought in one of his stores. And so as Mark Tinsley, I mean, a judge gave him the nickname Tiger Tinsley because this man, you do, and he said you something about a tiger on your tail, like Mark Tinsley. That's how this guy
mm,
is. His brain is so amazing and he's so fast. And like he thinks of everything. So he did stuff like he got someone to recreate the crash to see how that went, to get that straight. He got all the records. He found some not so great things were happening amongst law enforcement that were investigating the boat. He was all in. He found out things about how the employees would just like come and go really fast at this large chain of gas stations, and so they weren't getting proper training about selling liquor. And so this is what was happening. They had the video of the girl who scanned his driver's license. She didn't even look at it. She scanned it, it beeped. She sold him the alcohol. He's standing there looking like he's about 15. He's this little bitty kid. He was 19 or 20 at the time, with his brother's driver's license. And if she'd have just looked at it, he's like 6 inches taller, 50 pounds heavier, completely different face. They both had red hair, and that's about the only similarities these boys had. So there was like he was finding the fault. If you can't if you can't keep up with the proper training to sell liquor, you don't have to sell liquor. You choose to
Yeah.
sell liquor. So you take that responsibility that your employees are trained and that you are not contributing to the delinquency of minors by selling alcohol to underage kids. And so rather than like facing that, this is what he did. He's got these private investigators tracking down these people, and it was absolutely terrifying. He gets an entire documentary made. He gets Vicky Ward, who I don't know if you know of her. She's a big media name here in the States. She covered the Epstein files and stuff. He gets her.
No.
She's the narrator of this big old documentary that goes out. And so he's like trying to wear down the families. This is before the murders. He's trying to wear down the families by bringing out all this stuff that he can bring out about them. He goes to his attorneys go to law enforcement allegedly and get stuff that only law enforcement had, pictures of her body. Now this girl, she's thrown from a boat. They don't find her till 8 days later. And
So,
yes, and so they have these photos of when she was found. Only law enforcement had those, and the attorneys have the files. He gets them, and this is how they find out that all this is happening. This what Vicky Ward was calling a sizzle reel, which is kind of like, a spicy trailer for this upcoming documentary, has these pictures of this young girl's body found 8 days later, and it's barely blurred, and the families has to see this, and everybody has to
oh,
see. Can you
terrible.
imagine your beautiful little girl, 19 years old, and her body's being put out there to sell this documentary? Like, it was horrible, absolutely horrible. So that's what's going on with that case. Well, it's that one is still playing out because they came after him. So they got him for the boat crash, then they came after him for this conspiracy. And he has unlimited funds, and he has, in my opinion, completely unscrupulous attorneys. He's got
Mm.
Mark Moore, which I have blasted to no end because he also represented Russell Lafitte, which was one of the he was the banker that helped Alex steal all this money.
Okay.
So there's him, and then there's Deborah Barbier, and she represented Corey Fleming, who was the other attorney that helped Alex steal money. And so these, to me, like, these are not great people. And you know me, I'm opinionated, and I say exactly what I think of these people who take on clients like this. And
Mm.
I had no problem. Like, of course, when I started with this conspiracy case, I have 4 humongous binders. I printed the entire file. That's how I work. Some people talk about a case, they just barely mention it. I dig into the details. So
Mm.
everything I have ever talked about is in a public filing because that's what I do. But they think that I'm getting insider information rather than just like looking and saying, okay, she has never said anything that's not in a public filing. They're like, oh, yeah, Mark Tinsley must be giving her all this information. So my name is in that file too. And I know people who ended up getting deposed, and they are asking if they know where I live. They want to subpoena me too. And that discovery doesn't close until April. And I'm not messing with these people. This guy
No.
will do anything. His attorneys will do anything. And so, I had that worry as well while Blake is subpoenaing me, and they've how many people did they dox? So I did
Oh
not want
gosh, yeah.
her attorneys to have my address or even my email address. And nothing about me, because I didn't want to be doxxed by them. And then we had the Reddit people trying to find us. And then
Yeah.
these attorneys in South Carolina are trying to find me. And so it is very traumatic.
Yeah.
My mom's not in good health. She already worries about me. And once you find someone, you can find their entire family. And I'm not going to be the reason my family ends up,
And
getting harassed.
right after we dealt with the subpoena and everything, I had some bad moments because I was in a dark place where I was kind of venting a little bit about it was about two specific people, but I was kind of frustrated, and I told people I thought I could trust, and they went and ran with that, and they actually, because they had all my personal private information because I trusted them, and they actually went through all my family's stuff, all their social medias and everything.
Sick.
That did actually happen.
I'm so sorry.
No, no,
I
no, it's not. It's just like, yeah, no, it's not even the people, the mad people on the Reddit. It's like,
people that you thought
pe-
were friends.
pro, yeah, pro Boldonis I thought were friends, an ex-mod. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah.
It,
I know they're starting. I mean, our community stayed good for so long, but I know there's starting to be trouble because House of Chatter tagged me on X, and somebody was bothering her, and she's like, well, why didn't you that she tagged me, she's like, well, why didn't you go after Cassidy? Why are you coming after me? And I was like, what is going on? But
I know,
yeah,
yeah, I saw that because, yeah, she's blessed her, she's amazing. And she's had people, she's come to me and said, oh, these people are saying you deliberately try to, provoke Ezra into get into subpoenaing you. I was like, what are you on about? I'm like, oh, and then she was like, oh yeah, they're saying that it's your fault that all the content creators got subpoenaed. I was like, I don't think so.
no, it's our big mouths got us in trouble.
No, it's not. It's not even that. It's just Blake Lively being a bitch. And her husband. We can speak. We should be allowed to speak. I mean, we don't even have the First Amendment over here in the UK, but it's a big thing for the United States, and we should be able to have that free speech to talk about a public case. And she didn't like what we were saying.
Yeah, that's what it is. But it's just like the last thing we need is people within our own community turning on each other. Like I can't stand that stuff. So
Yeah.
when that started, I'm like, you know what? I don't take private messages anymore. I'm like, just no, because then I saw somebody's private messages
Oh,
ended
you've
up
gone.
posted on X, and my name was mentioned in those, and those messages
Mm.
were not given to the person who posted them. So I was
No.
disgusted, and I'm like, no, my I'm not going to have my messages because later somebody gets mad at me, put them out there. Because if you see somebody do it to somebody else, that if they get mad enough at you, that they will do it to you too. So I'm just like, you know what? And I just said, when House of Chatter tagged me, I'm like, you know what? If people are doing this kind of stuff, then they got no business talking bad about Blake and Ryan because they're doing the exact same thing. And that's honestly how
Yeah.
I feel. Like the last thing we need to do is be attacking each other. It's ridiculous.
No, definitely. I mean, we're all here for the same fight, the same cause. And, um, I feel like, in one way, the one good thing that came out of that subpoena was like it did kind of unite, the handful of us anyway, where, like where I'm kind of sitting and going, oh, I'm not sure who I can trust anymore. Like I know I comfortably trust you. I trust Ashley. I trust Lauren. And
Mhm.
it's that's just I'm really grateful for that, to be honest. Even if I had to go through the whole, you know, pain of, fighting against the subpoena, it was kind of worth it for that.
Mhm.
But you're
Yeah.
right. I mean, it wasn't just a subpoena for us, definitely, certainly for me and you, because it was like, yeah, it was, that idiot on Reddit and everything as well. And we just, it was just relentless, wasn't it? Because I don't know
Mhm.
what the obsession was, why people get so obsessed and fixated, but
But yeah, Blake's team, they wanna dox. They love to dox.
and I know, I don't understand. I don't understand why do that for what? But yeah, and yeah, I think that was kind of the moral of my story, was just kind of like, oh, do you know what? That was a moment where, like, I was so overstimulated and I didn't know which way to turn. I was exhausted physically and mentally because I was like up, you know, all day my day with my normal family life, and then I would be up all night to be on American hours to talk and share ideas with you, Ashley and Lauren. And
We needed each
I don't
other's
think I
support.
slept for 6 weeks. I was even working on the subpoena while I was on a holiday I'd booked the year before. I was on a cruise and I was still working on, I think it was the follow-up letters we did, wasn't it?
Mhm. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
'Cause we weren't
Uh,
sure. Because then we found out that she went after Andy on several different, um
Platforms, yeah.
yeah, platforms, yeah, so we're like, "Yeah, she's gonna take this one away. Is she gonna come at us some other way?" You know,
Yeah,
and so
no,
you guys said
absolutely.
you had emailed her. I never did, and I know when you file, you're supposed to send it, but I didn't send my stuff to anybody because I didn't want anybody to have my email address even, because I know that there's people who can track you down that way, so
I know
it's
I did email because I was, when she said, "Oh, we're gonna withdraw," I was like, I want it in writing that this is not, you're not gonna try this again and restart it again.
Mhm.
But I had emailed her before because when it was before my subpoena. Well, this, I was already subpoenaed. I just didn't know about it. But do you remember when they were having that whole back and forth? And I think it was Andy and Ashley. They were like, trying to find out if this was real or not. And then, YouTube was like, yeah, 1 minute, and then no the next. And there was a lot of back and forth. And I remember I did email to say, look, can someone just confirm whether this is real or not? People are worried. Um, but so, but I didn't mind that because, again, they're supposed to be ethical. I know I'm hoping for the best here, but,
Yeah.
um, like, people are supposed to be ethical. But yeah, I
How
did,
many times did they dox people in their filings? And you're not
yeah.
gonna tell me that the administrative staff at their law firm is that backwards that they don't know how to properly redact. Come on.
No, exactly. No, exactly. I 100% agree. I mean, I was like, when they doxed Justin Baldoni's address in California, I think at that point I was just, it was an eye roll. But these things do go into filings. I'm not saying, because if you look at the aviation gin and the Starcloth and the aviation gin, it's actually got some of Ryan Reynolds' personal information, like his email address and stuff like that, in there. So
Mhm.
that can happen. But when the because that was before the protective order was in place. That was when they were serving the summons and everything. But when the protective order was in place and he'd moved, like, to then share that deposition transcript identifying his new address he's just moved to,
Just moved. That was
that's
infuriating.
unforgivable.
That there needs to be something for that, sanctions for that somehow. That was crazy. There's no
I don't
excuse for
know.
that. But,
No.
I wanna comment on Jesse's thing. Absolutely, absolutely, and be careful who you trust on here, 'cause I fortunately, before
Mm.
I ever started this case or the Murdaugh case, I used to talk about a TV show, 90 Day Fiancé, and I ended up in a group chat. It was the first time I'd ever been on one. I was freshly moved back from living in China for several years, and just you know ended up, I joined because I thought, like, I didn't think people were that crazy. Turned out there was a very crazy woman in that chat who went off and did, like, really, really horrible things, but I've always been a very private, cautious person, and, because I've got a huge family, and I love my family, and I would never want to be the
Mm,
reason anything bad happens to them, and, so nothing bad happened to me, but though it was attempted. But some really bad
yeah.
stuff happened to some of the other women that were in the chat because this woman just went nuts. It was the weirdest thing. And that's when I found out, like, not every grown up is grown up emotionally. And I became very, very careful. And I'm so glad, as much as that experience sucked, I'm so glad that it happened to me because it taught me before I started messing in something much, much more dangerous to be careful. So, like Jesse says here, the track phone. I tried that first. The track phone I bought was like this little old flip phone. It was really, really awful. But I've got a a shady phone guy that I have a phone set up. He doesn't know my name. It's a pay in cash sort of thing. And
Yeah.
he registered my phone from his shop. It's not near my home anywhere at all. And I go there from time to time and pay like several months at a time. And there is no way that phone could be tracked to me. And that's what I use for social media or for anything like that. You can use Proton Mail for your email. That's a really good, more safe one. My business is in an LLC. My bank is a doing business as,
Mm,
so that just to keep, because this and that had to be changed when Blake was wanting my bank information because I have joint accounts with my husband. I
yeah.
have joint account with another family member, and it's nobody's business to get access to that stuff. And so,
No.
yeah, so there was, yeah, protect yourselves, guys, and be careful who you talk to. You don't know these people. They may seem very, very nice here, but don't give them your
Yeah.
real information. It's just not a good idea. I've learned it the hard way. And
I think, and I agree with that as well. Like, I think that's a really good message to kind of, because I think, because I'd kind of, like after what happened with my ex-husband now, which most people have heard the story now anyway, and he basically did, at the end of everything, a gen able on me and had access to all
yeah.
my accounts, my phone and everything. And, and that level of intrusion of privacy. And I spent like nearly the last 9 years not really going anywhere or talking to anyone. But so then this has like been my first experience of people talking to me and getting to know people and definitely for the most part everyone's been really really nice. But yeah, I think I was too trusting, and I would definitely share your sentiment. Like, be careful because you don't
Mhm.
we don't know these people. We don't know people really at the end of the day.
Mhm.
So, just, it's always nice to get to know people, but, yeah, just, you don't know what people's intentions are.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was a really good lesson, I think,
Yeah.
for everyone.
Yeah. PMS, can they get info on joint accounts? I don't know. I
They
honestly,
can.
yeah, I would assume
Yeah,
if
if
they,
they subpoena an account that's in your name, they can, if it's a joint account, then yes, they can access that too.
yeah, because that's all I had was joint accounts with my husband and then another family member, a separate account um,
Mm.
that I was put on a family member. So yeah,
Can be, it would be like business account, any accounts that have got your name attached to it, whether it be
right.
joint accounts, business
That's
accounts, single accounts,
yeah.
personal accounts, yeah, there's no reason why they couldn't access that at all. If it's basically in pursuance of a subpoena.
Yeah. So that's when I was like, well, I need to get an attorney and find out how I get all this separate, get a separate bank account that's just under my LLC, a DBA, and
Mm,
'cause I was like, I'm not gonna risk it like this again. So, and this
yeah,
time period, I am fully prepared. I've been more in Germany than I've been here in the States lately, and if I have to relocate there to avoid this this Parker situation, because like I said, their discovery is not closed till April, I will do it. And then I found out
yeah,
Peru has no, like, even China now, like, you can still send, they will still honor a subpoena for a deposition. I mean, I have really looked this stuff up, but
yeah.
I can go to Peru and they do not cooperate. So if I want to get really, really ridiculous, I will. Because just from the standpoint of, I didn't do anything wrong. I should not have
No,
to expose myself to tell this man, go look at all of my videos and tell me what I talked about that isn't in a public filing. And then you have a right to subpoena me. But that's not the way it goes in the States. There's
no.
so much allowed for discovery that it's
And
really, really, and then
I
to
think,
fight, like, how do you come and fight without exposing yourself?
well,
So,
exactly. And I found that quite wild actually, because like, you know, where America takes its free speech really seriously. I mean, the UK is, it used to be not so bad for free speech, and now it's awful. I could literally
mm,
face prison for a tweet, you know. That's
yeah.
where we are. But when it comes to privacy is like getting information shared in the UK. We're like Fort Knox. We take privacy incredibly seriously. And when I was doing, because I did with the motions to quash, I had to did mine with the US and UK law, and then Ashley's with the US and Canada law. And it would have been easier for Blake to have got penetrated the Canadian law than
Mhm.
it would have the UK law. And I was quite that was the only bit of like the whole process where I was like, okay, I feel a bit safe here, because you know she's really got to jump through burning hoops to get through
Mhm.
to get compliance with UK. And she would have had to as well, because you know X has it's got a headquarters, well, not headquarters, it's got like you know operations in Ireland, which is where my account would be held.
Mhm.
And you know,
Yeah,
she
I
still
passed it on a train. Um,
did
I
you?
passed the Google in Ireland on the train. Yeah, it's right, the train goes right past it. There's an exit right by it.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I mean, she didn't even subpoena them. She went to, I can't remember, was it Texas? No, it wasn't even Texas. It was Nevada. Yeah, Nevada.
Yeah.
Because the headquarters is actually, and where you're supposed to send the legal request is actually in Texas. She didn't even send it there.
Yeah.
Um,
That's why they didn't fight us, because they knew that subpoena wasn't correct.
no, I
You can't
know.
take one subpoena and send it out to all of those different people in all of those different jurisdictions with different return dates in different jurisdictions. Did I already say that? Um,
Yeah,
Different return dates, different platforms. That's the one I missed. So
yeah.
yeah, it was ridiculous, and they knew it, and that's why when we filed motions to quash, they just quietly withdrew it, and they did not want him to rule on it, because if he had ruled on it, they would have had to stop using it. That still
Yeah,
makes me mad,
exactly.
'cause he knew that too. He could have stopped it, and he didn't.
Yeah, that frustrated me, because it's not like he's not done stuff sua sponte on this case.
Yep. Wait, what did you say? I was
I
reading
said
a
it's
comment.
not. Oh no, I was just saying he could have done something. It's not like he hasn't already taken action sua sponte already.
Exactly. When it was Taylor Swift's subpoena, he sure sua sponte did it. But ours, we all asked him to do it, and he just ignored us.
I know. I
Yeah.
know. That was a moment. That was yeah, it was a moment. I
That
don't know
was
what
a
else to describe it as.
yeah. Oh, goodness, we've been on almost 3 hours.
I know. I'm so sorry. I always.
No, it's
It's been
okay.
ages. It's been
We
ages since I've had a good chat with you, and I love chatting with you.
Yeah, it was nice. The time just went so fast. I think I was only on for, like, a little over an hour for the actual content, so but, Yeah. Well, thank you for joining and for adding your take on it as well, and for the nice chat.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Of course.
I don't think that law, just to kind of answer the very first question, I don't think that's going to make too much. I mean, Lyman literally just needs to say, I have considered this. He still has, the kind of legal license to rule however he wants to.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Gottlieb is grasping at straws because I think they
Oh,
know that going to be devastated. I do think I think they filed Wayfarer filed that letter as well about extending the deadlines, and like Lyman accepted the deadlines that Lively agreed to, but not the ones that the alternative ones that Wayfarer suggested for the pretrial motions.
Mm-hmm.
My guess is I think the rulings on the two on the motion for judgment on the pleadings and the motion for summary judgment, I think they're going to be coming quite soon.
Yeah.
To make those deadlines workable.
Yeah, because they do try to give the attorneys notice, or it could be
Yeah.
that he knows that most of it's gonna be dropped, so they're not gonna have that much to prepare anyway. That could be. That very well could be. He's gonna be like, "Well, you
Yeah.
don't have much of a case to try anyway, so it doesn't matter." But, which would
Uh,
be absolutely wonderful. But to me, the other funny point is, like, him demanding that he do this with the evidence, and I'm like, "You're acting like your evidence is good, Gottlieb. It's not. It's not
I
gonna
know,
save
right?
it's not gonna save you."
No, it's not. And I did catch you briefly with Omar, and I think Omar said that I may be again I may be quoting wrong here, so I'm hoping not. But I think I heard Omar mention that he thinks that only the breach of contract claims are going to remain, and then it will settle. Or someone mentioned that it will settle because it won't be worth going to trial.
Mhm.
I don't think it will. I think it will still go to trial, and I think she will want to appeal.
Mhm. Oh, yeah. You can't the kind of personalities that they have, and I'm no medical professional, but I've heard lots of people say they seem to be narcissistic. And, and I'm not saying that as an official medical diagnosis, but it's just like
No,
the way it gets loosely used,
like
these days.
egomaniacal.
Yeah, yeah, like, they honestly can't see, what they do wrong, and they can't stand to like, if it looks like they're gonna lose, they just go harder. I mean, that's the way it seems
Yeah,
'cause most people have enough self-awareness to have, like, they would've withdrawn this a long time ago and been like, "Oh, this was a mistake." But the way they
yeah,
just keep coming, to me, it says and I don't think Wayfarer, I could be wrong and I can't speak for them, but if it were me, I would sure say this. I think they're not gonna settle without getting their names cleared, because these are ugly, ugly accusations. These are married
yeah.
men with young children. They do not wanna walk away from this being called what they've been called, and I feel like they're gonna want part of any kind of settlement, 'cause they're not after money. They want to
No,
clear their names. So, I can't imagine them accepting anything that doesn't have some sort of recognition that they did not do this. So and
oh,
then, like, I don't think Blake
oh.
and Ryan are gonna wanna settle.
No, well, I think we've heard a few times from Steve Sauer. It's not just him in that recording with Claire Ayub or in his own deposition. We've heard it from like Josh Greenstein. When he was at the premiere and he was talking about, I will throw any amount of money at this. And so it isn't about money.
Mhm. Mm-mm.
And I think I'm inclined to agree with you. And to be honest, I think just the fact that Natasha Heath's all of those birth videos have we got this far that she's had to give up all of that.
That
I would see it through to the flipping end and
Yep,
beyond.
yep,
I would, because I would.
absolutely.
That's where, like, saying, okay, do you know what? We'll just cut our losses and walk away from this. No, that's not good enough. You're entirely right. There's a reputation.
Mhm.
I mean, their reputation is built on listening to women, protecting women, supporting women, elevating women. And I don't think they can afford to walk away from this without, at the very minimal, an apology and a retraction statement to say, do you know what, this never happened, and we take it back entirely and we apologize unreservedly. But I also know from my experience working in the legal sector that an apology is one of the hardest things to get out of anyone. Like, people will throw all kinds of money. Yeah, they will throw so much money to defend themselves from having to say sorry. You have to see it to believe it.
Yeah. It's a certain personality type. Well, even when it comes to the plantation wedding, Ryan has apologized because they were forced to, and it took years to get it out of them. But Blake has never apologized.
No.
She has never. Only he has.
Exactly. And again, it's just that, again, that also just proves they just think they throw money at a problem and, it makes everything okay again. It doesn't.
Nope, it doesn't at all.
But yeah, I have a different stance to Omar. I do think they'll see it through. I don't think there's any settlement, and I think they'll both sides will appeal.
Yeah, whichever side loses is going to appeal.
Yeah, I think we're both going to be in this for a long time to come.
Yep. I agree, Lori. I think we all do. But all right. So we have officially gone over the 3-hour mark.
So
thank you
sorry.
guys. I can't believe. No, don't apologize. I mean, look, people are still here with us. So thank you guys for staying with us on your Sunday like this. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of what's left of the weekend, and hopefully we get some more rulings this coming week. I saw somebody say they're guessing by Wednesday. It could be. I hope so, and I hope it's all good news. And if it's not, I'll be on here screaming. You know that?
Yeah, I will too.
Thank you, Christina, so much for modding, and thank everyone for your super chats and your wonderful, wonderful messages. Ricardo again, and KKS 2360, thank you for becoming a member. And Selma, thank you guys so much, and just everyone for your participation and for joining and for your support of all of this. Thanks, Leanne, for joining, and
thank
I
you.
will see you all again soon.